The Pirate Journey of Arceus. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 926, Group Destruction. Yipk. Looking at the small number of pirates in front of him, Batman stretched his body and didn't take them seriously. The recruitment of manpower by the beasts is mainly in the New World, and only the pirates who reach the New World can make them look up to them. If you don't even have the ability to pass the first half, then this person is not even qualified to be cannon fodder in the New World. Today's New World has become the territory of the four emperors. The four great pirates compete with each other and erode the scattered forces around them. A few years ago, there were many pirate alliances that occupied their own territories on the edge of the territory of the Sea Emperor and challenged the authority of those people. But as time goes by, there are fewer and fewer such pirates. They are either eliminated or incorporated. Only a handful of them can persist as individuals. It is not only the Red Earth continent that divides the New World and Paradise, but also Haki. In the four-season Paradise, there are only a handful of pirates who know Haki, which also leads to the result that the natural ability users are invincible in the first half. But in the New World, Haki has almost become a standard. Those who can become carders cannot have no knowledge of Haki, and at least have to be proficient in one of the colors. Although Batman is not a single-digit number, he is also a numbered person in the top 100. Although he is stationed in the first half of the Sky Island, he finally became a carder according to the standards of the New World. The pirates in Paradise are not a problem for him at all. If one day he turns over in the hands of a newcomer, there will be other big carders to talk to him without Kaido's appearance. What should he do if he loses face for the pirate group? In this era, there is a vague tendency of involution among pirates. Even the Emperor of the Sea needs the injection of fresh blood to increase the strength of the pirate group. Otherwise Kaido in the original timeline would not deliberately appear before several supernovas. Batman is stationed on Sky Island to deal with emergencies on the one hand, and to see if there are any newcomers worthy of attention on the other hand. If there are, the pirate group of these people will be noticed by the Beasts team of the New World in advance. After all, the talent of the newcomers in the first half is more important than strength. This also led to another situation. Unless they encountered a fool who dared to violate their rules or trample on their flags, the carders stationed in the front half, such as Batman, would not kill them. If they were really capable, these newcomers might become their colleagues in the future. If they were not capable, even if they left here, they would be buried in the belly of a fish or die at the hands of others sooner or later. Hey, the number on your belly, does it mean that you are 49? Luffy rarely hit him directly, but questioned the number on Batman's belly. Huh? Have you seen other numbered people? I haven't heard of anyone encountering you. Then how big is the gap between you and 8? That masked woman was knocked unconscious by me at the time, and I don't know where she ran away afterwards. Listening to Luffy's words, Batman looked Luffy up and down, and a sense of doubt emerged in his heart. The person in front of him was still alive, and there were no missing parts. This didn't look like he had fought with Ulti. In the past, opponents encountered by Ulti would have lost some parts if they didn't die. This kind of person who didn't even leave a scar was too rare. The gap between me and Lady Ulti is huge, but it's enough to deal with you. You should be more serious. Enough of the nonsense. Let me see what you can do. Buzz! Exclamation mark. Invisible sound waves came out of the bat's mouth, and the ultrasonic waves from the big mouth bat enveloped the entire Merry. The harsh sound waves gave the people on the ship a splitting headache, and even the mast on the ship made a hideous sound. As a member of the numbered people, the Batman knew very well how terrifying the gap between the numbered people was. The smaller the number, the greater the gap in strength between them. The numbered people outside the 90s may be only slightly inferior to the people in front, but when they meet the numbered people in the single digits, they are usually killed in one blow. Whether it is domineering or ability, talent or hard work, the people in the single digits are completely better than them. The Batman didn't know that Ulti didn't take ruthless action because of Yamato. He was not qualified to know the private affairs of his eldest lady. Although Yamato had updated the status a lot during this period, the only thing he could do was to like it. According to Batman's cognition, the reason why Luffy is still a complete person may be because there is something worth valuing. In this case, there is no need for him to show mercy. Sonic attack is a standard feature of Zubat. Under the influence of sonic waves, ordinary people will quickly lose the ability to move. At least Nami and Usopp have been trapped in a state of being unable to move. Others are better. Facing the attack of Batman, they made their own reactions. Since Batman has the ability to fly, except for Luffy, the others can't touch the flying Batman at all. They can only try to approach him with their own jumping ability. However, Luffy's arm flew over first. Rubber pistol. The extended arm approached Batman at a faster speed, and then he was directly caught in his hand. This attack is too slow. Batman is far from the observation haki of predicting the future, but he can still predict the attack. Especially his ability as Zubat. The combination of ultrasonic wave and observation haki makes his observation haki more acute. After grabbing Luffy's arm, Batman's muscles bulged, and he used Luffy as a meteor hammer and smashed it towards Sanji below. Sanji, who had no leverage point in the air, was hit by Luffy and fell towards the island cloud below. Little Straw Hat. Damn, the human demon fist, memories of that summer. Because of practicing the human demon fist, Von Clay's jumping ability is stronger than Sanji's current one. His body began to rotate at high speed, and he kicked the Batman in the air with a fierce roundhouse kick. But he just flapped his wings twice and came above Von Clay. The speed of the circle is very fast, but it's useless. Von Clay's sidekick was firmly caught by Batman, and then thrown to Sanji and Luffy below, using it as a meat pad for Von Clay to buffer. Luffy, who was a rubber man, was fine, but Sanji, who was at the bottom, frowned obviously. Choke. Zoro was the only one left of the 4 attackers. His attack did not miss, and he chopped directly into the Batman's stomach, but the domineering aura on his stomach made Zoro's slash ineffective. How could it be? In the battle with Mr. One in Alabasta, he had already mastered the technique of cutting steel. Even Mr. One's steel body with the quick cut fruit could not block his slash, but now he could not even cut the skin of the person in front of him. The action just now was repeated again, and Zoro was thrown down again. Chapter 927 Rambo Ball and Excited Batman. You bastard green algae head. Get off now. The battle just now actually lasted for a very short time. In just one encounter, the 4 major forces on the ship were successfully wiped out by the Batman. An animal type ability user who can fly freely and is proficient in 2-color domineering is a more difficult opponent for the Straw Hats and others than Crocodile. Before Crocodile successfully reflected on himself and obtained the buff of the version update, he was no match for the Batman. Crocodile was still a threat to the Batman decades ago, but he was defeated and lost his spirit. He focused all his energy on Pluto, so he was no match for the Batman at this time. After pushing the people on him down, the 4 people looked at the Batman nervously again. This opponent seemed more terrifying than before. Of course, there were people who were far more afraid than these 4 people. Usopp, Chopper, remember to protect me. The Batman interrupted his ultrasonic wave when he attacked, which also made the weak trio react at this time. Nami instinctively hid behind Chopper and Usopp. Damn it, why is Hercule gone? Where did it go at such a critical moment? Chopper and Usopp are actually just filling in the numbers. Hercule is more reliable. The rhinoceros beetle on this ship is more reliable than humans. This is common sense for Nami now. Although the people on the ship are reliable when there is danger, when there is no danger, these people are the biggest danger. But Hercule flew away not long after arriving at Sky Island, and it is unknown when he will come back. At this time, the Batman is facing the fierce attack of the 4-man team, but no matter how they attack, they can't touch the Batman. All their actions are within the Batman's expectations. Even if the 4 people work together, they will be blocked by an inexplicable black object when they hit the Batman. What's the matter with this guy? Isn't that ability a bat? How can there be such an outrageous defense and reaction? The journey on the Grand Line has broadened the horizons of the Straw Hat Pirates. At this time, they have a deeper understanding of the animal and natural systems. You have to know that there are more detailed classifications of animal type ability users. I'm not an ordinary bat, but a user of the mythical beast type. This ability is even rarer than the natural type, at least it used to be. If we ignore the power of the 100 beasts, then the ability of the mythical beast type is indeed rare, but after adding the 100 beasts, this rarity is unreasonable. After a simple explanation, the Batman took out the bow and arrow behind him. The warm-up is over, now it's time to get serious. He grabbed a bow and arrow directly from the quiver, and then shot directly downward without even looking. It seemed like a random shot, but his arrows accurately shot at everyone. This is the sonar-guided arrow he developed using the ability of ultrasonic waves. It is not as convenient as Setsuna's Wava guide arrow, but it also has a simple guidance system. Boom. Be careful, this arrow will explode. We saw it, you don't need to say it again. Zoro swung his sword at the arrow shot by the Batman, but he didn't expect the arrow to explode the moment it came into contact. The power of the armament haki made him suffer a great loss. Looking at the Batman who was constantly outputting firepower in the air, they couldn't think of any way to deal with it for a while. After finally getting Luffy close and blocking the opening in the sky, the Batman stomped his legs dozens of times and left their encirclement in a razor-sharp way. The advantage in numbers did not make up for the difference in strength. The power gap brought by haki could not be made up with their strength, so they were defeated by the Batman one after another. Sanji and Von Clay fell first, which also made Zoro and Luffy feel more pressured. Luffy, that guy can predict people's attacks. Ah, I know, so I thought of a way. Luffy stroked his hat, and then used an amazing move. Rubber days. Luffy's eyes became dull, and his body swayed and relaxed, looking like a fool. Are you kidding me? Seeing that Luffy was still doing this at this time, Zoro couldn't help but want to give him a knife handle, but Luffy dodged it flexibly. Interesting, it seems that it is not impossible. Chopper, help me, push me up. With the defeat of Sanji and Von Clay, Chopper had to participate in the battle. With the enhanced strength, he had a good strength. With the help of Chopper, Zoro approached the Batman again, and then he found that he was fooled by Luffy. He thought Luffy had developed some moves to deal with the opponent's prediction, so he went up to attract firepower, but Luffy was in a daze and did not make any move until Zoro was knocked down. You bastard. Zoro cursed inwardly before losing consciousness, but no one knew whether he was cursing the Batman or condemning his captain for being a pit. After pitting one of his teammates, Luffy returned to normal again. Damn, I can't attack like this, it's not working at all. Rubber Days is a new move he developed to deal with the unknown power of observation haki. After emptying his mind, he acts completely according to the instinct of his body. Without any ideas, he will naturally not be predicted by the opponent, but this will also lose the means of counterattack. Kid, the world of pirates is not a game. If you don't have the determination to die, newcomers like you will not be my opponent. Batman appeared beside Luffy like a ghost, biting his neck with a pair of sharp teeth. With the injection of venom, the main combat forces of the Straw Hat Pirates were all defeated. Nami and Usopp's combat power can be ignored at this time. The only thing that can interest Batman is Chopper. Reindeer. What you eat seems to be very special. Ordinary animal systems only have 3 stages of transformation, and the blue wave ball developed by Chopper can disrupt the transformation wavelength of the animal system Devil Fruit, making the 3-stage transformation into a 7-stage transformation. For Batman, this ship of people combined is not as attractive as this thing. At this time, Chopper was also struggling. He had eaten 2 blue wave balls, and now the time was almost up. In a sense, the blue wave ball is a poison that only lasts for 3 minutes. If you take the second one before 6 hours, you will not be able to control the transformation wavelength. He was lucky to be able to transform into a power form just now. Now the time for the second ball is about to end. If he eats the third ball, Chopper looks at the blue ball in his hand and the unconscious Luffy, and the words of the Batman just now appear in his mind. Be prepared to risk your life. With a click, the third blue ball was bitten to pieces, and a huge reindeer monster also appeared in the eyes of the Batman. However, when looking at this monster, there was no fear in the eyes of the Batman, only excitement. Chapter 928, Performance delivered to your door. When taking the third blue ball, the user will lose consciousness, and the power in the body will start to run wild, turning into a monster. Chopper didn't know what it was, he only knew that this power was terrible, but Batman knew that this was clearly the power of animal awakening, or in other words, it was only part of the power of awakening. The guys in Impel Down who failed to awaken and became jailormen were one example. In Batman's eyes, the pill that Chopper took was his way to promotion. If even such a weak person can achieve this kind of awakening with external forces, then those people inside the beasts. In addition to the abilities given by Arceus and the abilities of artificial fruits, the beasts also have many ordinary animal type ability users. This thing is almost a war stimulant tailored for the beasts. If this really works, Batman has begun to imagine himself standing on the podium to accept Kaido's commendation. Patting his face, Batman pulled his thoughts back. Brother Mandafesh is right. As long as you work hard, luck will come to you sooner or later. Although this thing seems to have significant side effects, they still have Quinn and Nakin. In terms of drug research, these two people are really talented. Batman believes that, as long as this medicine is sent back, everything else will not be a problem. But before that, he has to deal with this crazy giant beast first. This is not difficult for Batman. After Chopper eats 3 blue balls, the monster form is a state of loss of control. This clumsy giant beast cannot touch a flying ability user. After a little effort, Batman successfully knocked down the crazy reindeer, but after that, he thought of a new problem. This medicine is suitable for some of the beast's ability users. If they have met ulti before, they may have used this power. If there is such a medicine, it can explain why Luffy is not missing arms and legs, but it cannot explain why Chopper is still following them. With Ulti's personality, she should take people away directly. At this time, Heracross also flew back from the forest, and even the tall figure of the monarch snake appeared here. It was attracted by the giant Chopper, and the monarch snake was also the source of Batman's calmness. It is the strongest guardian here. Looking at Heracross, who was helplessly holding his forehead beside Luffy, Batman felt that he had realized again that this group of people might have been targeted by higher level carders, but he just didn't know it. Since the end of the last ranking battle, the single digit numbered people have only changed their ranking internally. It is almost impossible for others to challenge them, which also means that their position has been stabilized. Compete with such a leader for performance. Shaking his head, Batman thought of some not so wonderful pictures again, and finally made his own decision. He took all the blue balls from Chopper, then filled in the emergency contact information on Rotom's mobile phone, and sent the blue balls and his report letter to Onigashima through a fat courier. As for these people, he decided to take a relatively gentle attitude, to avoid overturning in the future. It's only 1.8 million Baileys, can't you afford it? Double the entry fee. This is already a very gentle means, but the Batman overestimated the economic situation of the Straw Hat Pirates. These people do not plunder like ordinary pirates, but explore like an adventure group, and their source of funds is unstable. Luffy's stomach is a bottomless pit, and he has to consume a lot of food expenses every day. In the absence of treasure, their economy has been very tight. Our situation is a bit special. Looking at the Batman who has changed his attitude, Nami doesn't know what's going on, but it's a good thing after all. When there is an absolute gap in force, the crew will generally choose to compromise. For example, the crew of a certain Red Lion's Kid was very confident before challenging Shanks, but after Shanks defeated Kid with a divine sword, they decisively chose to kneel down and beg for mercy, and then handed over the rubbings of the historical text in their hands. The world of pirates is cruel, and just paying a trivial fine after defeat is already a very preferential result. As for the Blue Wave Ball, according to the traditional rules of pirates, everything of the defeated belongs to the victor, so the Batman will not use it to pay off debts. It was originally 1.6 million, but Luffy thought that Heracross was a companion, not a pet, so he had to be counted as a person, so it became 1.8 million. This logic almost made Nami hammer him to death, but then she found that there was no difference. Whether it was 1.6 million or 1.8 million, they couldn't get it out in the end. The rules can't be broken. Since there is no money, you can stay and work. Although you are weak, it will be very fast if you earn enough entry fees. There were no mines for them to dig on Sky Island, but there were a lot of jobs, so the Straw Hat Pirates were forced to delay a lot of time, and even Killick, who came with them, joined the ranks of working, and was not able to leave Sky Island until the debt was paid off. After leaving Sky Island, the gap in strength made Luffy realize that he needed stronger power, so he started a new training, but while getting stronger, they were still thinking about where to get a lot of money. The Merry, which had followed them all the way, needed to be overhauled at this time, which was a considerable expense. At this time, something also happened in the Seven Waters. Due to the long delay in the Sky Island, their speed to the Seven Waters was greatly delayed. But CP9's action would not be delayed because of their late arrival. The purpose of these undercover agents in the Seven Waters was Pluto. The capture of Robin in the original timeline can be said to be the result of coincidence. Now Robin's identity is different, and he has not come here, so they naturally carry out their original tasks honestly. After Tom was kidnapped, he began to live in anonymity, and even his disciples did not know where Tom went. After a while, the seriously injured Frankie reappeared in front of Iceberg in the form of a cyborg. Iceberg handed the design of Pluto to Frankie and hoped that he would leave the Water City and start a new life under a new name. But Frankie did not accept it, but continued to live on the island under the name of Frankie. Tom's disappearance became a thorn in his heart. He wanted to wait here to see if he could see his teacher again. After that, he took in many homeless people who were almost starving to death in the back streets and opened the Frankie family, which specialized in shipbreaking. However, some things cannot be hidden. Many years later, he was still discovered by the agents of the world government and secretly arrested in the middle of the night. All this was seen by Tom, who secretly returned to the Seven Waters to observe the situation of his disciples. Chapter 929, Giant Crocodile in the Sea. Not long ago, in the office of Water 7, Bingshan, the president of Carrera Company and the actual manager of Water 7, stared at the people in front of him blankly, his eyes full of disbelief. "It's all your fault. The world government asked you to hand over something, but you refused to do so. Otherwise, things wouldn't have come to this. Kaku, if possible, I don't want to hurt you. I want to leave a good memory in this city. Califa, did you inherit the stubbornness of your master? This is not a good habit." Bruno in the tavern. "Are you all from the world government?" "Yes, lurking is easy for us, but don't worry, we are all serious and responsible at work. Before this, there was no problem with the work we handled. It's just that the mission time is about to end, and we need to do our best to complete the goal. There are not many members of CP9. Qualified CP9 are also elite forces in the hands of the world government, and they need to be used in key places. Letting talented CP9 members like Luxie and Kaku waste a lot of time as boat workers is already a stupid move by Spandam. For the design drawings of the legendary ancient weapons, they can waste time, but they cannot waste it endlessly. The undercover work allowed them to collect some intelligence, so today when the mission deadline is approaching, they chose violence. As the sea becomes more and more chaotic, a new voice has emerged within the world government. Instead of worrying about the revival of ancient weapons all day long, it is better to take these ancient weapons into their own hands and directly put an end to the Great Pirate Era. However, the voice of this faction has not been recognized by the top leaders of the world government, which does not meet the balance they need. But they just disagree with the latter, believing that there is no need to end the pirate era, and they still agree with the mastery of ancient weapons. "Mr. Iceberg, the ancient weapons could have been a force for justice, but you don't want to help us. You don't plan to save the people in the world who are still being harmed by pirates. Impossible. Once the weapons are resurrected, the world will begin to compete for their power, and the casualties will only continue to increase. It seems that you don't believe in the world government. Kid, I just don't believe in human hearts." Iceberg has no trust in the world government and has never thought of handing over the design drawings of Pluto to them. He had planned a series of plans before, but in the end, Luxie and others discovered the clues and finally found Frankie. Iceberg was powerless to do anything about it. He thought his plan was fine, but he didn't expect that half of the people around him were undercover, and his plan was almost a loud conspiracy. The sea train escorting Frankie quickly left the station of the Seven Water City. They had to send Frankie away before the arrival of the water gods. Due to its location, this huge tsunami hits the entire city every year, and today is the day it arrives. Mr. Iceberg, it's time to take shelter. The water gods are coming soon. They knew that Iceberg had suffered a great blow, but facing this giant tsunami, he would really die if he didn't take shelter. You go first, I'll catch up later. But, go, Iceberg, I'll bring Frankie back. A familiar voice sounded in Iceberg's ears, and Tom, who had disappeared for several years, appeared in his eyes again. Teacher Tom, you have done a good job over the years. The Seven Waters capital has developed very well under your management. On weekdays, he built some docks in the territory of the 100 Beasts. Now that the main ships of the 100 Beasts have been strengthened and modified, the navigation capabilities have been greatly enhanced, and the maritime transportation in the territory has become more convenient. Tom sometimes secretly returned to the Seven Waters capital to check on his disciples, but just to avoid suspicion, he would leave after a few glances and never communicate with them. If Frankie had not been discovered this time, he still didn't plan to expose himself. But Master, Frankie is on the sea train now. I know, didn't I also disappear on the sea train? Patting Iceberg on the shoulder, Tom gave Iceberg a reassuring gesture, like they did when they were little, and then left the Seven Water City along the inner canal of the Seven Water City. Outside the Seven Water City, several fishermen were waiting here with Tiger, but they were not soaking in the water, but sitting on the shoulders of a giant crocodile. Tom was not a fisherman with outstanding martial arts value. In order to protect the safety of this old predecessor, Tiger would travel with him, if he had time. As for this giant crocodile, it was Tiger's partner and the fourth player of the giant beast core of the Beast Pirates. After the King of Flame and Bankira in land battles and the 8-headed evil dragon in air battles, another weapon, the powerful crocodile in water battles. In the early stage of the upcoming arrival of the water gods, the waves on the sea are very turbulent. Even the fishermen find it difficult to stabilize their bodies in this situation. If they are alone, they usually dive to the bottom of the sea to avoid the impact of the tsunami. But it's different with support. The body of the powerful crocodile is still very stable under the waves, like a magic needle under the huge waves, but the underwater posture is not as handsome as imagined. Its limbs and tail are constantly swinging to maintain its stability, and this posture is also the reason why the fish people sit on its shoulders. Uncle Tom, you are finally back. We are all ready. Sorry to bother you, although it is a private matter, but he is a very important disciple of mine. It's no trouble, Uncle Tom. Everyone sees your contribution, whether it is the construction of the new Fishman Island or other islands. You have helped a lot. Besides, this is not the first time we have done this. There are not many things that have been snatched from the world government, and among those who have done these things, Tiger has definitely snatched back the most people. After all, he released the slaves of the entire Mirajoa, and no one has replicated this kind of thing until now. Let's go, buddy. We have to catch up with the sea train in advance. The members of the giant beast corps are not commanded by anyone. Apart from the orders of Arceus, they usually only listen to their partners. Only Tiger can arrange the direction of the giant crocodile. The other fishermen can only take a ride with the crocodile. Raw, the giant crocodile changed its body shape, and the red bone plate on its back appeared above the sea. Then it twisted its body and chased in the direction of the sea train. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 930, The Powerful Crocodile Who Opened the Blind Box. Tiger was very familiar with this route. In order to rescue Tom, they had ambushed on the track of the sea train in advance. That operation was very simple for them. Tom was a fisherman. As long as they put the sea train into the water, they could naturally use the geographical advantages brought by the ocean to rescue Tom. This time was different. Tom's disciple was a human, and the water gods were on the way. If they overturned the sea train directly as before, it would probably become a Russian-style rescue. Report. We have killed all the enemies. Hostages? What hostages? No hostages. But this time they had a higher force configuration. Although the number of people was much less than last time, they had a war weapon like the giant crocodile. Under the cover of the night and the ocean, the blue scales all over the crocodile's body became less conspicuous, and only the red bone plate on its back exuded a terrifying atmosphere under the moonlight. With its strong forelimbs cutting through the sea, the alligator is constantly changing its swimming style. In addition to the alligator's usual style, it is also proficient in butterfly stroke, freestyle, and breaststroke, and is now moving forward in the breaststroke style. New, brother tiger, why would an alligator learn breaststroke? Isn't that strange? It's because Aaron has nothing to do and taught him. It's not particularly strange. Isn't there a frog swimming freestyle over there? In Tiger's opinion, Aaron teaching the alligator to swim is better than him going out to cause trouble. Even though he has restrained himself a lot now, Tiger is still not very confident about him. This world is really strange. New. The frog swimming freestyle and the alligator swimming breaststroke. This weird swimming posture shocked Zio Bay and also attracted Tom's attention. Yokozuna? Yokozuna. Come here. Where are you going? Under the influence of the waves, Yokozuna did not hear Tom's call, and in the end Tiger asked the alligator to catch it directly. At first, it tried to attack the alligator, but it calmed down after seeing Tom. Tom also learned about Yokozuna's plan to rescue Frankie and the origin of his scars. You are really a frog with only friendship. Yokozuna thought Tom was really dead, so he used his body to hit the sea train every day, leaving countless scars on his body. Don't worry, Frankie is still alive. I will bring him back. After comforting Yokozuna's emotions, Tom took him on the road to rescue Frankie. At the same time, Frankie had been tied to the carriage with chains and gagged. He talked too much trash, which made the CP9 people feel annoyed, so they simply gagged them. Luxie and others were resting their eyes in the carriage. Their undercover career, that lasted for several years, came to an end, and they also completed this mission. Now they are very close to Judicial Island, and they can't help but relax, but at this moment, a sharp whistle came from the sea train, and it started to break suddenly. What's going on? Notice, urgent notice. Seekings appear on the track ahead. Armed personnel please go and drive them away immediately. Repeat. Seekings appear on the track ahead. Armed personnel please go and drive them away immediately. The voice of the conductor came from the radio. Ordinary agents did not notice anything unusual, but Luxie and others noticed something unusual. They have been undercover in Carrera Company for many years and have a full understanding of the sea train. The problem of seeking attacks was taken into consideration when it was first built, and this problem has been solved through special methods. Except for the trial run stage, it has never been heard that the sea train has been attacked by Seekings. Several people couldn't help but stand up and plan to see what happened. But before they could move, a fierce explosion sounded from the front of the train, and even the carriages behind it were shaken violently. In front of the sea train, the conductor slumped in the second carriage. His pants had been wet by liquid, and under the erosion of the waves, he maintained his last dignity, making people wonder what the liquid was. The creaking sound kept coming into his ears. It was the sound of the metal front of the train being twisted. At this time, the front of the sea train had been bitten in the mouth of the crocodile, and it turned into a pile of metal debris as the upper and lower jaws closed. Crocodiles' movements are not fast at ordinary times, and even look a little leisurely, but in the explosive state, crocodile's speed is much faster than usual. The powerful explosive power makes it impossible for people to see its movements when crocodile pounces on its prey. When people find something abnormal, they often only see a residual image. Relying on its own explosive power, crocodile has already arrived at the only way for the sea train to pass in advance, and blocked its way. Due to its size, crocodile is a very difficult thing to support its body on land, especially for this giant crocodile 20 meters away, but in the water, with the help of the buoyancy of the seawater, it can burst out more power. As the name suggests, great power is the characteristic of this Pokemon. Unlike other water-type Pokemon, crocodile does not appear much. To be precise, the Pokemon in Chengdu are all like this. Their existence is mostly covered by the Pokemon in other regions. What the crocodile is best at is not water, but its powerful jaws and claws. At this time, it also started its own actions. After blocking the sea train, the crocodile continued to move forward along the rails, just like opening a blind box, and destroyed the top of the carriage in the process. The other fishermen had already dived into the sea at this time. Only Tiger and Tom remained on the crocodile, looking for Frankie's trace. Whoosh, whoosh. Several sounds of breaking through the air came. CP9, who came to check the situation, kicked several storm kicks at the crocodile after discovering the rampant crocodile, but all these attacks were blocked by the crocodile. Its defense is not as strong as Bankara, but it is more than enough to block these storm kicks. This monster doesn't look like a sea king. Seeing that his storm kicks had no effect at all, Kaku's expression became solemn. No matter who they are, attacking the world government's escort train is a capital crime. Compared to that monster, the person on its back is the mastermind. Tiger and Tom's figures are very conspicuous. Luxie couldn't see their faces clearly in the night, but the people sitting on the back of such a monster couldn't be just playing around. Where did these guys come from? Are they here for Frankie? I don't know. We'll know after we deal with them. Califa, you go watch Frankie. Nero is too weak. Kaku, Bruno, you harass this monster, and I'll go catch the controller behind it. Chapter 931. People with special abilities should not be too arrogant at sea. Luxie quickly made the task assignment. As the strongest member of CP9, he was also the actual leader of the team, and the orders he issued were much more effective than those of Spandam. His strength was obvious to all, and the other members were willing to follow his arrangements. As for Spandam, if it weren't for his good reincarnation skills, he would never have joined the spy organization in this life, let alone become the leader of CP9. Under Lux's arrangement, Kaku began a feint attack, and Bruno also opened the air door and drilled into the space of the door to wait for an opportunity. There was nothing wrong with such an arrangement. Facing an unknown giant beast and someone who was suspected of being able to control the beast, he must have wanted to deal with the controller first, but he had some problems estimating the enemy's strength. If it weren't for saving people, Tiger would have more ways to deal with this matter. Speaking of which, I don't want to fight with you, but there are some people I have to take away. How about you leave on your own initiative? This is the sea train that the world government uses to transport prisoners. Your behavior is provoking the world government and destroying the order of this world. You should surrender. It seems that the negotiations have broken down. Then Tiger swung a punch at the bottom of the powerful crocodile out of thin air. At the same time, Bruno happened to open an air door there. As the ability user of the door fruit, Bruno can open a door anywhere. After opening the door in the air, a unique space will appear behind the door for him to hide. Whether it is a sneak attack or a transfer, this is a very convenient ability. Luxie and Kaku talked to Tiger before, and they also wanted to give Bruno a better opportunity. But Bruno's attack had already been sensed by Tiger's observation haki. This is not predicting the future. Looking at the entire ocean, there are only a handful of people who can reach the realm of predicting the future with their observation haki. It's just that the essence of observation haki is to predict the next attack. Ordinary observation haki can actually be regarded as foresight of the future, but it is not as detailed as the observation haki that predicts the future, and the time is not as long. Space-related ability? It's quite troublesome. Bruno's ability made Tiger feel difficult, and he regarded him as an enemy to be defeated first. In order not to expose his original identity before taking action, he completed his transformation in a place where no one noticed, and directly entered the almighty form. Blindly forbearing cannot change the status quo. This is a truth that Tiger has long understood. He gave the opponent a chance before, but no one chose to leave. Therefore, when attacking, he did not hold back. Bruno, who popped out of the air door, wanted to harass the powerful crocodile, but Tiger sensed his actions. The skill of the fishman karate's air attack came into play at this moment. Bruno only felt that his chest was hit by a sledgehammer, and a lot of blood immediately flowed from the corner of his mouth. He wanted to open the door from behind to temporarily leave the battlefield, but the powerful crocodile did not give him a chance. Before the air door was opened, the powerful crocodile's claws had already swung at him. Iron block steel. Tiger's attack just now made him unable to move. With his ability not yet used, he had to choose to use the iron block to try to bear it. He might not be able to bear it with the iron block, but he certainly could not bear it without the iron block. Even if he gathered all his strength, He seemed very small in the face of the attack of the powerful crocodile. The body of the iron block was cut by the claws, and the white bones were exposed from the wound. It was thanks to his iron block that he was not torn into pieces. The strength of CP9 at this time can be temporarily evaluated by Taoism. The Taoism of the Navy soldiers holding weapons is 10, while the Taoism of the Lion Widori is 810. In the Battle of Judicial Island in the original timeline, Chopper, who ate 3 blue balls and entered the monster state, knocked out Widori with a palm. Bruno and Widori were almost the same in strength, with Taoism of 820. But the strength of the giant powerful crocodile is much stronger than Chopper, who lost consciousness and entered the monster form. Bruno, who was hit, flew backwards like a cannonball and finally stopped after crashing through several train carriages. Bruno. Looking at Bruno flying backwards, Kaku anxiously called his name, but did not check on him. The battle was not over yet. If he did not deal with these guys in front of him, it would only cause more trouble. Although Lucky did not speak, his brows were furrowed, and his body swelled and turned into a leopard man. Uncle Tom, you and the powerful crocodile go to save your disciples. Ziobe and the others will help you underwater. Leave this to me. The gods of water are coming soon. We have to rescue people before that tsunami arrives. Tiger did not care about Bruno, who was knocked away. If the powerful crocodile could not even deal with such a person, it would be despised by its brothers and sisters. Listening to Tiger's order, the powerful crocodile planned to take Tom to continue searching the carriage, but Kaku did not give up resistance and continued to carry out the task assigned to him by Lucky, trying to harass the powerful crocodile. I say, this square-nosed guy, I advise you not to intervene, otherwise, if you are not careful, it will kill people. The storm kick proposed by Kaku was crushed in Tiger's hand, and at the same time, his fist hit Kaku's neck. Seeing that Tiger had already made a move, the powerful crocodile did not intend to pay attention to Kaku, and left the back to Tiger with confidence, and then swam towards the rear carriage. It was at this time that Lux's figure also disappeared from the spot. 6 style secret art, 6 King Spear. Without too much trial, Luxy used his strongest move as soon as he made a move. This is a skill he realized after mastering the 6 styles and practicing them to an extreme. It is also his most powerful move. Tiger's performance made Luxy feel a sense of crisis. His intuition told him that he could not give this enemy any chance. Luxy came to Tiger's side with the combination of shaving and moonstep and swung his fists with both hands at the same time. The power of his body was concentrated between his fists and hit Tiger in the form of impact. Boom. A burst of white smoke came out of Tiger's body. Rob Lux's 6 King Spear hit the bullseye, but a layer of black domineering aura completely blocked the power of Lux's 6 King Spear. It hurts a little. It's quite powerful, but it's not a good thing for a person with special abilities to be so ostentatious on the sea. The 6 King Spear has a strong penetrating power, but pain is also divided into different levels. Even a mosquito bite can be called pain. Tiger's feeling is not so exaggerated, but Lux's 6 King Spear did not cause any effective damage. Then several water rings gradually condensed on Tiger's arm. As the water rings began to rotate, the seawater below also began to gather towards Tiger's arm, as if it was guided. Fishman Karate Water Flow Ring Punch. Chapter 930 to the Fallen Genius. Watering, a relatively rare recovery skill, but it has nothing to do with Tiger's watering. Watering punch is the punctuation of his moves. The waterings around his arms are actually the skills of Watertail, but he did not use his tail, but used his arms to attack. The water drawing effect is stronger than that of Fishman Karate. It does not require physical contact to manipulate the seawater below. The water of water type Pokemon can be divided into 2 types. One is the water converted from the energy in the body, and the other is the water from the outside world. There is no essential difference between the two, but the latter has a great impact on the ability users. Unless this person's ability comes from Arceus, he will eventually escape the disgust of the sea. Under the influence of pyrobrine particles, the ability users whose whole body is soaked in seawater will not lose their abilities, but their whole body will fall into a state of weakness. The fruit ability can bring a considerable increase in a person's combat power, but in Tiger's eyes, Lux's ability is just a debuff. Regardless of whether he has a leopard form or not, Tiger's physique is stronger than him. Although he is proficient in the 6 styles, the 6 styles are still far from domineering. Iron blocks and paper paintings are more like simplified versions of armament haki and observation haki. The difficulty of practice is relatively low, and the strength is slightly weakened, but more people can master this skill. Even if Luxie can master awakening within 2 years and become a member of CP0, that is a matter of the future. With the help of Spandam, the great commander, Lux's growth has been delayed for several years. He may be a genius, but a genius who has not really grown up is nothing. Looking at the water column hitting him, Luxie just wanted to dodge, but his body suddenly tilted, and the muscles of his left leg were sunken out of thin air, and his whole body lost balance. The same result happened to Kaku on the side. Although he was not in the direction of Tiger's punch, his body was still sunken out of thin air. Tiger's punch is a combination of the variant of water stream tail and fishman karate. In addition to the water flow, it also has the unique striking method of fishman karate. Both Luxie and Kaku had a lot of water in their bodies, and they were attracted by the water flow blasted by Tiger. Facing Tiger's experienced attack, they were unable to make effective defense. The moment their bodies lost balance, they were swept into the sea water caused by Tiger. In the dim sea current, Kaku endured the pain and used all his strength to catch Luxie before he sank to the bottom. No matter how strong the ability users are, they have no way to deal with it when they fall into the sea and can only rely on their companions for rescue. There are also ties between the official members of CP9. In the original timeline, a group of people also raised medical expenses for Luxie by performing. So Kaku took the risk and fished Luxie out again in this weather. Luxie, there is something wrong with that fishman. Pushing Luxie to the track of the sea train, he also climbed up with great effort. After several expansions, his body returned to normal again, and the injuries in his body were temporarily curbed by the return of life. I know, in the carriage to Califa, these guys are targeting Frankie. We must not let them take him away. Luxie thought of what happened a few years ago. Almost at the same location, the sea train escorting Tom was attacked by the fishman, and then Tom disappeared. Today, on the same sea train, it was also attacked by the fishman. Luxie instinctively linked the two things together and confirmed his judgment the design of Pluto must be with Frankie. He thought that those fishermen rescued Tom most likely for Pluto. After so many years, perhaps their preparations have been completed and they are only short of the design to build Pluto, so they return to the Seven Waters to find Frankie. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain the appearance of these fishmen. Arresting Frankie is their temporary action, and they should not be exposed, no matter how you think about it. Use Bruno's ability to transfer him to a safe place. If it doesn't work, kill him. The power of ancient weapons must not fall into the hands of outsiders. Luxie stood up and wanted to go to the carriage at the back, but a big hand pressed on his shoulder. Unfortunately, you made the wrong choice. Tiger's thoughts have changed, but he still rarely kills people. If Kaku and Luxie leave, he will not pursue them. But CP9 are all loyal dogs of the world government. Under the brainwashing work of the world government since childhood, the world government is their only master. Even if the world government has planned to wipe them out, after the world government changes its mind, they will still choose to accept the amnesty and rejoin the CP team. Tiger has observed the strength of the escort team. Except for Luxie and Kaku, the others do not pose a threat at all. Tom is not very good at force, but as a senior shipbuilder, he has amazing strength and can easily lift a medium-sized pirate ship. With the help of the powerful crocodile, they are enough to complete the rescue work, so Tiger did not leave immediately after defeating Luxie and Kaku, but planned to see their subsequent actions before making a decision. What? Gurgle. Luxie and Kaku did not notice how Tiger approached, and before they could say anything, the tsunami that came with Tiger swept them into the deep sea. Tiger adopted a similar tactic to Jack at this time, sinking to the bottom. For the fishmen, the deep sea is the best battlefield, and the body that can breathe underwater has a unique advantage. The sea water choked into their lungs and drowned out their voices. Wave riding is a skill that almost all water type Pokemon can master. There are only a handful of water type Pokemon that cannot learn wave riding. Compared with the naturally generated waves before, the waves controlled by Tiger are more threatening, and the power of the tide hits Kaku and Lux's bodies. At the same time, Tiger's strange power is also destroying their bodies. In the ocean, Luxie has long lost the strength to resist, and Kaku has no chance to resist. With the physique of the fishman and the increase of the dolphin man's all-powerful form, Tiger broke their cervical vertebrae neatly. Tiger has no interest in torturing people, and even if he kills, he will not make the enemy suffer much. A few dozen seconds later, Tiger reappeared on the sea, and the bodies of Kaku and Luxie, who had lost their vital signs, were washed into unknown waters by the surging waves. At this point, Rob Luxie, who was known as the most talented CP9 in the past 800 years, died in his own mission, avoiding the possibility of him taking advantage of the version buff, awakening inexplicably and lowering the status of the 4 emperors. At the same time, Tom and Crocodile also found the carriage that was escorting Frankie, but it had already become a mess. Chapter 933, CP9 suffered heavy losses. Red Hair was questioned. Bruno was lying on the ground, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. At that time, the slap of the crocodile directly knocked him to the last car. When he was unconscious, CP9 did not immediately move Frankie. Frankie also took advantage of the chaos to break free from the chains that bound him. In terms of normal human structure, it is impossible to break free from these chains, but Frankie is a cyborg, and both his hands have undergone mechanical transformation. Thanks to the transformation, Frankie freed his hands and started a battle with Califa. After the powerful people were led away by the crocodile and tiger, Califa and Nero, who had not even learned all 6 styles, had to work hard to deal with Frankie. Come on, stinky bastard, come and experience my super explosion. Frankie's butt was already swollen at this time, and he looked like he was going to die together. In the previous battle, the stench released by Nero almost made Frankie's iron nose fall off. Although the semi-finished fruit bought by Spandam had a lot of side effects, the ability of the skunk was retained. Frankie finally found an opportunity to scare Califa and Nero away temporarily by self-destructing. But he didn't really self-destruct. He didn't have the ability to do so. Instead he took out a notebook from the interlayer of his stomach. I was kidding you. Frankie. Super flame. The old manuscript turned into ashes under the burning of the flames, and Frankie's face also showed a relaxed look. This is something that has been passed down from generation to generation by the shipbuilders of the 7 waters. This has never been a design of a weapon, but something that holds the future. It is so that, when the ancient weapons fall into the hands of people like you, we can create something to resist. But rather than letting it fall into your hands, it is better to let it be completely destroyed. Arsehole, our hard work over the years. Frankie's words were very clear. That notebook was the blueprint they wanted to find. But now, everything is gone. Ha ha ha. Be angry, but it's useless. So next sizzle. Before the roof of the carriage was lifted, the crocodile found its target. Under Tom's instructions, he grabbed Frankie and left without saying a word, and the giant tsunami hit at this time. This was not Tiger's work, but the gods of water. The paralyzed sea train was shaking under the baptism of the gods of water. Under the waves, no one cared about anything else, and could only try their best to protect themselves. The fishermen were the exception. They had successfully left here with the help of the crocodile. Mr. Tom. That's great, you are still alive. Atsuna. On the island near the 7 water capital, frogs, cyborgs, and fishermen hugged each other, and Frankie and Yokozuna's eyes were full of tears. Frankie, who was proud of his perversion, cried like a child. Okay, Frankie, don't cry. I have secretly watched you and Iceberg over the years. You have both grown up very well, and are both my good disciples. Mr. Tom, where have you been all these years? It doesn't matter, Frankie, you have to change your lifestyle. You should also be on the list of the world government. Ask Iceberg to help you arrange a new identity, or live on another island under an assumed name. If that doesn't work, you can contact them on this island. They will arrange a suitable job for you. It's okay to bring more people. Wait, Mr. Tom, let me continue to follow you. My skills have become better now. Wait for me to go back to the 7 waters to deal with some things first. Frankie, this is too dangerous, and this position is not suitable for you. Do as I say. When things settle down, we will meet again. Tom did not choose to take Frankie away. He was a fisherman himself. He could move freely with Tiger and the others. It was not convenient for Frankie to follow them. And Tom knew what he was doing. He didn't want Frankie to get involved completely. He just left him a business card as a way out for him. After that, Tom said goodbye to Frankie and dived into the deep sea to leave here, while Frankie secretly returned to the Seven Waters. He still had the younger brothers of Frankie's house to arrange, and he didn't plan to just leave. One day later, in Judicial Island, Spandam was being scolded, and Spandine, who was opposite the Den Mushi, was very angry and said all the words that could be used to scold people except relatives. Waste. How can there be a son as useless as you? Robloxy and Kaku are dead. Waste. The number of deaths was not limited to the two of them. The reserve Nero also died among the water gods. Only Califer and Bruno survived the CP9 who were carrying out the mission in the Seven Waters. But they couldn't tell who attacked the sea train. Bruno was knocked unconscious by a slap before he could even see the appearance of the person opposite him, and Califer only saw the unknown seeking. In addition, another team also encountered an accident during the mission. Atonishi Owl, Gabra, and Lion Utori did not participate in the undercover work of the Seven Water Capital, but participated in the plan to assassinate the branch chief of the Revolutionary Army. Originally, their mission was to assassinate 3 people, but Atonishi Owl accidentally told others the plan because of his big mouth. In order to complete the plan, they killed 23 people. Although the mission was successful, the impact was very bad. Coupled with the death of the genius member, Spandam, as the highest officer, was not to blame for his job, so he had to go to his father to smooth things over. Dad, what's the result? The result. Your position is saved. Now the world government is busy with other things and has no time to take care of this little thing. In the Holy Land, Mirajoa, a hurried voice resounded in the empty hall. 5 elders. 5 elders. What's wrong? The fleet heading to the New World was defeated a few days ago. The 4 emperors red-haired Shanks and White-but Edward Newgate had a direct encounter. What? It doesn't matter if the Sea Emperor fights, but it's what the world government doesn't want to see them sit down and talk, especially since this has happened once before. First it was Kaido and Red Hair, now it's Red Hair and Whitebird. What exactly are these guys trying to do? Think about it carefully. Kaido hasn't done anything that has a big impact recently. Defeating 2 branches of the East China Sea and defeating one of the 7 warlords of the sea, isn't that a big enough impact? His daughter can't represent him. Maybe she's in her rebellious phase? The 5 elders discussed the topic of the 4 emperors meeting and finally came to a strange conclusion. Is there a possibility that it wasn't Kaido who contacted Red Hair last time, but Red Hair who took the initiative to contact Kaido? Chapter 934, The Hub of the Rage Era, The Blade-Cutting Blackbird. Red-haired Shanks is the most special one among the 4 emperors today. He is not only the youngest of the 4 emperors, but he was also Roger's apprentice, and had the privilege of communicating with the 5 elders. He is not a person who shakes the balance of the world for his own selfish desires. This was the evaluation of Shanks by the 5 elders before, but now, they began to doubt whether this judgment was wrong. The previous meeting between Red Hair and Kaido made them feel something was wrong. When they asked what Red Hair and Kaido talked about, he actually said that Kaido went to him to drink on purpose. The 5 elders didn't believe this reason at all, thinking that Shanks was just perfunctory to them. If it was just drinking, Kaido didn't need to make this trip, and if Shanks didn't want to, could Kaido force him to drink? From that time on, the 5 elders felt that Shanks might be hiding something. Red Hair doesn't look like a vicious pirate, but that's for his own power. In order to protect the pirates under his command, he will also destroy the enemy with one blow. Kid in the original timeline has a deep understanding of this. As for Kaido, this guy looks like a reckless man, but he is actually very cunning. The 5 elders also don't think that Kaido would ask Red Hair to do something as meaningless as drinking. If it was a fight, they would be willing to believe it. So what he showed us before was all a fake. It shouldn't be. If it was all fake, Red Hair wouldn't have to expose himself like this. It's just that this guy's purpose is hard to understand. It was Red Hair who destroyed that fleet, and his strength seems to have become stronger. Don't forget Kaido, Whitebird, and Big Mom are all remnants of rocks, and Red Hair is an outsider. If Kaido has any big moves, he should go to Big Mom, right? Kaido's inexplicable actions completely disrupted the thinking of the five elders. In their opinion, Kaido is not a person who doesn't use his brain. Otherwise, he wouldn't do business with the world government. But the problem is that they can't guess Kaido's brain circuit, causing the direction of the discussion to deviate more and more. At least they haven't taken any further action yet. Let's observe first. If we can maintain the status quo, it seems to be a better result. I hope so. By the way, according to the report from CP9, Robloxy died in the mission and the design was destroyed. The blonde five elders seemed to remember something and mentioned Roblox's name in front of the other four people. It's a pity, but he died. Compared with the current situation, this loss is nothing. You all know where Pluto is. The design has no impact. That's right. Instead of talking about this, why not think about Blackbeard's proposal? Do you really want this guy to fill the position of Shichibuke? The five elders with knives knocked the ground with their knives and skipped the matter of Robloxy. The dead have no value to them. The Shichibuke was originally an organization established for balance. Crocodile's defeat was not good news for them. Blackbeard, who took the initiative to seek the position of Shichibuke, was even more of an outlier in their eyes. He has a grudge against Whitebird. If he can prove his strength, then it's not impossible. That's it. Remember to send out a new surveillance ship. It would be best if we can find out the content of the conversation between Red Hair and Whitebird. The conversation between five people determines the future direction of the world. On the sea, the conversation between two people also has a huge impact on the future. The encounter between Red Hair and Whitebird made the soldiers of several naval bases begin to be on high alert. I heard that the fleet was defeated. Is it true? It's true that Red Hair and Whitebird are about to come into contact. Stand at attention. The general's scolding interrupted the soldiers' whispers. A general was giving a speech to his soldiers. Listen carefully, everyone. We don't know what will happen next. All personnel are on the highest level of alert. If there is any special situation, we will be on the front line. For the justice of the Navy. Yes. At the same time, at the junction of Red Hair and Whitebird's territory, the Moby Dick had already retracted its sails, and the Red Force did the same. Snap, snap, snap. The people on Whitebird's ship fell one after another. The weak-willed pirates could not hold on in the face of Shanks's conqueror's haki. Under the scolding of Marco and others, those who thought they were not strong enough had left the deck and hid back in the cabin. With the sound of footsteps, Shanks came to Whitebird. Gilila, the little kid on Roger's ship has grown up. Where is the red-nosed guy who was with you? Is he dead? Baki? I heard he is still a pirate. We separated after Captain Roger died. But Whitebird, I'm not here to reminisce with you. I have experienced countless battles and suffered countless injuries, but only the scar has always made me feel a dull pain. Pointing to the scar on his face, Shanks mentioned Blackbeard. That guy has been forbearing, not seeking fame or the position of captain. He is waiting for the right time and will not take action until he gains power. Sooner or later, he will aim at your position. What do you want me to do? Stop Ace and tell him not to get close to Blackbeard. Gilila, the runny-nosed kid has become eloquent and has started to teach me how to do things. The times are turbulent. Whitebird, you are old and you will die one day, but others are still young, such as Kaido. That guy has war on his mind. Although he has not taken any major actions in recent years, he has been accumulating strength. When he launches the war machine of the 100 beasts, will the Whitebird pirates, who have lost you, still have a way to resist him? The lack of someone who can carry the banner after Whitebird is the dilemma faced by the Whitebird pirates. In other words, only the Red Hair pirates and the current 100 Beasts pirates still have people who can carry the banner after losing their captain. Katakuri and Marco are still a little short. Red Hair's words touched Whitebird's heart, but Whitebird would not accept this sentence in person. The sky seemed to be affected by the two. As their conversation gradually reached a deadlock, the sky became gloomy. Thick clouds gathered together, blocking the bright sunshine. I'm old, but I'm Whitebird. Kurogiri waved in Whitebird's hand. He wanted to use force to prove that he was still the Whitebird of the past. Under the treatment of the potion of the 100 beasts fruit, Whitebird still maintained a relatively healthy state. The broadsword was wielded vigorously, and his domineering color was also wrapped around the blade. Without using the power of the tremor fruit, Whitebird simply relied on his domineering and brute force to swing a knife at Shanks. Clang! Griffin was unsheathed, and the equally powerful, even more powerful domineering color wrapped around Griffin, blocking Whitebird's slash from bottom to top. The sky became a victim of the collision of domineering colors. The thick clouds dispersed under the impact of the momentum, and like Moses splitting the sea, a deep gully was left in the sea of clouds. Shanks understood that Whitebird didn't listen to him after all, and the turmoil of the times had become something that could not be stopped. During the time when the Navy was alert, neither Whitebird nor Red Hair did anything radical. Instead, the Navy headquarters received an order from the world government and eventually formed a team led by Jian, supplemented by Huashe Ocean and Stellaberry. 3 vice admirals and 3 warships formed a small fleet, heading for the destination given by the world government. They were going to receive a vital prisoner. A few days later, a group of Blackbird pirates were waiting for the arrival of the Navy at an abandoned dock. The island was once prosperous, but it had long been dilapidated under the destruction of the Great Pirate Era. Except for Blackbird and others, the island can be said to be empty. To be precise, in addition to them, there was an extra race. The flame fruit was eventually defeated by the dark fruit, and Ace became a bargaining chip in Blackbird's hands. Haha, Captain Ace, the Navy will be here soon. If you regret now, you may still have a chance. Are you really not going to be my partner? Once I hand you over to the Navy, you will have no chance to regret it. Teach, you are dreaming. Humans have a future because they have dreams, but Captain Ace, I'm afraid you won't be able to see this future. Badges, keep an eye on Captain Ace. It's not easy to get this pair of sea-stone handcuffs. It will be troublesome if he pries the lock open. At this time, a flaming figure passed through the sky. The figures of Blackbird and others were reflected in Jin's pupils. Finally, I found you. Following Blackbird's trail, Jin chased all the way. He found a town that was smoothed by the dark fruit 2 days ago. By asking the townspeople, he finally locked Blackbird's location. Blackbird, who was standing below, only felt a shadow flashing from above, and then a fatal sense of crisis rose in his heart. Blackbird rolled to the side in a panic, pressing Vanoka to the side. Boom. The pier was broken, and the slash from the air split the pier in two, leaving a terrifying mark on the shore. Looking at the seawater pouring back into the slash, Blackbird was afraid that he would be chopped by this blow. Who is it? As soon as the voice fell, Jin's figure had already landed in front of him. The tall figure brought a strong sense of oppression, and the flames behind him were burning fiercely, like an evil spirit from hell. Flame disaster. Jin. Blackbird swallowed his saliva. He thought it was the support of the Whitebird pirates, but he didn't expect it to be the big billboard of the beasts. Blackbird, Marshal D. Teach. Hahaha, it's an honor for someone like you to know my name. I shouldn't have offended you, right? No, but my subordinates are grateful for your care. I'm here to collect debts on her behalf. Chapter 935, Debt Collecting Ashes, the fake flame fruit. What a joke. Just for this reason? Blackbird still remembers the last battle with Drake. Although Drake's kick failed to kill him under the influence of the double pain of the dark fruit, it made him realize what it means to be worse than death. In those days, whenever he thought of this battle, his lower body would ache. More importantly, it had been a long time since this happened. During this period, Blackbird read the newspaper the most. Morgan's news could not be fully believed, but major events happening around the world could not escape his eyes. It was the best way for pirates to understand the world and collect intelligence. Blackbird's plan was very complicated. He needed intelligence from various regions to decide the next direction. At the same time, he was also paying attention to the movements of the emperors of the New World. Red Hair's successive meetings with Kaido and Whitebird made him excited. Only turbulent times could allow him to better seize opportunities. In the process, he also paid attention to the movements of some cadres, such as the captain of the Whitebird pirates who inexplicably appeared in the first half of the Grand Line. He knew that those people must have come for him. Compared to the Whitebird pirates, he didn't care much about the movements of the Beast's pirates. It was the rule of the Whitebird pirates not to harm companions. He knew that he had violated Whitebird's taboo, so he stayed away from the New World first. Although he had a fight with the beasts, Drake escaped successfully. He didn't think that the beasts would come all the way to trouble him for an injured Kaido. Whitebird's Kaido title is Captain, Big Mom's Kaido title is Star General, and the beasts are disasters. People who have established their reputation with terror are not good people, no matter how you think about it, and they shouldn't care so much about their subordinates. Now it seems that he was wrong. Recalling the situation in the newspaper, it was probably not long after that king started to hunt him down. A joke. Sorry, I never joke. Cross-star Emperor. Jin lowered his upper body slightly, and the wings behind him were wrapped in white light and cut forward in a cross shape. After the cut was formed, Jin thrust the blade in his hand forward, and the blade lightened the cut formed a huge cross spearhead, rushing towards Blackbird in front. The glowing wings are the effect of steel wings. For the Lunarians, the wings behind are extra hands. After the steel wings are strengthened, these wings are two sharp blades for Jin. With the saber in his hand, a special three-sword style was born. Damn it, are all the guys in the beasts this crazy? Looking at the cut flying towards him, Blackbird trembled in his heart. The huge cross-sword energy not only included him in the attack range, but also other members of the Blackbird pirates, including Ace behind him, were also within Jin's attack range. Blackbird didn't believe that Jin, as the current big boss and the leader of the three disasters of the Beast's pirates, would not recognize the captain of the second team of the Whitebird pirates. Ace's bound appearance clearly showed that he had lost his fighting power. He certainly could not take on this kind of attack, but in this case, Jin still chose to attack indiscriminately, not worrying about the consequences of killing Ace. Dark water. Blackbird raised his hands horizontally, and bursts of black smoke came out of his body. The powerful gravity tried to absorb Jin's slash. Jin didn't care about Ace's life or death, but Blackbird didn't. If Ace died in Jin's hands, he would have no trump card to trade, and the whole plan would collapse completely. Therefore, he had to protect Ace's safety and use the power of the fruit to absorb Jin's attack. I see, this kind of ability, no wonder it made Drake flip. The explosive power of the ultimate Volt Thunder Flash was no worse than his own attack. Seeing Blackbird's method, Jin finally understood how he avoided Drake's attack. However, Jin's slash was just a test. Seeing Blackbird trying to absorb his slash, Jin was not idle either. Boom. 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 4 huge rocks fell around Blackbird out of thin air, and then pressed towards his body. Bang. Ah. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Blackbird's mouth. The impact of the rock blockade had a significant impact on his body. The dark fruit does not have the passive elementalization of the nature type fruit. If he wants to absorb the attack, he must take the initiative to react. If he is hit before he uses the dark water, the intense pain will still make him roll on the ground. And if he wants to absorb the attack painlessly, he has to rely on his hands. In the original timeline of the Top War, because of his arrogance, his hands were controlled by Whitebird, and he could only use his body to resist Whitebird's damage. If Whitebird was not in danger of death at the time, Blackbird's own vitality was very special, and the passive of the dark fruit could not exempt damage, but the impact of absorbing damage, Whitebird's vibration would probably really send him away. At this time, Blackbird's hands were absorbing Jin's slashes. Facing the boulders coming from all sides, he could not react the same as before. The darkness gushing out of his body was offsetting the damage caused by the rock blockade, and the gravity of darkness was also grinding the boulders made by Jin bit by bit. But Jin's new round of attacks had arrived. Flame Emperor. Flames shot up into the sky. The rock blockade created a special stove, and Blackbird was the prey on the stove. Ah. It hurts. It hurts so much. The shrill scream spread across the coast. Even Ace, who was captured by Blackbird, stared blankly at everything in front of him. The damage caused by the flames to Blackbird seemed to be greater than his own. Looking at the flames burning behind him, Ace felt that he had eaten a fake flame fruit. The rocks became charred under the burning of the flames, but a deeper darkness emerged inside. When the rocks were swallowed by the darkness, Blackbird had already half knelt on the ground, and the sweat beads gathered into lines, and could not stop falling down. Jin had a unique study of torture. In addition to the rock clamping, and the burning of the flames. There was also the branding brought by the red hot rocks. The triple damage plus the doubling of the dark fruit made the pain Blackbird experienced difficult to describe. What? Is that all? There's still plenty of time. This is just a little interest. Captain Teach. Blackbird's miserable appearance also refreshed his younger brother's perception of him. Blackbird has been beaten almost all the way since his debut, but this is the first time he has been beaten so badly in a face-to-face encounter. Jin didn't even give Blackbird a chance to show off his ability and began to attack fiercely. Bang! A bullet fired from Vanoka's gun barrel. His sniping skills were excellent, and the bullet shot towards Jin's exposed pupil. Hearing the sound of his younger brother's attack, Blackbird was not happy, but panicked. Idiot. Don't do it. This is not a guy you can mess with. Chapter 936. What is the use of this dark fruit? Quinn is targeted again. In the previous ambush of Drake and the battle with Ace, Blackbird's minions had briefly taken action. This was also something Blackbird acquiesced to. He valued the future of these people, but these guys still had a long way to go to grow up, and they had to let them know how big the disparity in the world was. But this time was different from before. Jin showed far more murderous intent than usual, and Vanoka didn't seem to notice it. Blackbird wanted to stop Vanoka, but it was too late. In this sea where most people use special repeating flintlock rifles, Vanoka has a rare sniper rifle. The quality of the gun is much better than that of ordinary people. With his super high sniping skills, he is also a tough opponent. But the premise is that his opponent cannot be a Kaido from the new world. He is just a better sniper, and he doesn't have the strong domineering power of Jesus Bu or Beckman. Facing Ace of the natural system, Vanoka's sniping seems weak, not to mention Jin of the animal system. Jin just closed his eyelids and blocked the bullet. The bites of mosquitoes cannot directly harm the human body, but they can make people angry. On a midsummer night, a cool breeze finally blew. Just when people were about to fall asleep, they were awakened by the sound of mosquitoes. Many people would try to kill them. Vanoka, who fired the gun, was just such a mosquito to Jin. Speaking of which, you were the first to attack my subordinates. In that case, it is reasonable for me to attack your subordinates. Stop. Swoosh. Jin did not ignore Blackbird's words. He came to seek revenge, and he and Shaina were both very extreme in some aspects. Although they were subordinates, sometimes Jin treated Derek as his sister. Borrowing money is an example. Ordinary members would be cautious when seeing Jin, not to mention borrowing money, for fear of angering him. Everything related to Blackbird this time was the target of his revenge. The sharp blade passed through the air, and the sniper rifle in Vanoka's hand was split into two along the crotches, and a blood mark appeared on his face. What a fast knife. Vanoka said the last words of his life, and then a lot of blood spurted out. The whole person was also split into two, and fell to both sides. Blackbird finally missed, and could only watch Jin kill Vanoka. You bastard, this is the partner I chose with great difficulty. Blackbird cared not about the friendship of companions, but the value of Vanoka. This was his plan for the future. In his opinion, Vanoka would definitely be of great help to him after he grew up. But now Jin strangled Vanoka in the cradle in front of him. Are you angry? Don't worry, there are still 3 of them. I won't let any of them go, including you, of course. You lunatic, I'm more seriously injured than that woman. Blackbird didn't know whether Baishao could cure Drake's eyes, but in his opinion, the torture he suffered was definitely much more serious than Drake's. Not to mention double. Even if it wasn't doubled, a kick in the crotch would be unbearable for a normal person. Whitebird would not interfere with his subordinates' petty fights, and would only take action when death occurred. As a result, the officers of the beasts were even crazier than Whitebird. So what? You are not my subordinate. Since you have set your sights on her ability, you must be prepared to pay the price. Run. Stay away from this guy. Dark Point Road. This is his base. Blackbird does not want all his subordinates to die in the hands of King, otherwise all his efforts during this period would be in vain. If it were normal, he would definitely choose to retreat and settle accounts with King after the plan succeeded, but now it is different. He has a new idea. The escort troops of the Navy are on the way. He doesn't know who the Navy will send to meet him, but facing the captain of Whitebird's second team Fire Fist Ace and he who can defeat Ace, he can't be a waste. When they arrive, he can join forces with the navy to take down King, and regard it as his achievement as a Shichibuke, and also make King pay for it. Darkness spread from his feet to the surroundings, and countless darkness grabbed Jin like hell's ghost hands. His ability was transformed from Tyrannodon. Although it was different from ordinary devil fruits, there were still similarities. Blackbird's dark fruit had a stronger attraction to Jin than to Drake, but it was not as severe as the restraint on Ace. Even though he was bound by gravity, Jin still slashed the second knife at Lafitte next to him. Clang! Lafitte's cane turned black. At this time, he held the cane with both hands, and blocked Jin's slash with difficulty. Hacky? Aren't they all useless trash? Lafitte was able to enter Mary Gi's single-handedly to ask for a seat in the 7 Warlords of the Sea for Blackbird, and opened the door of justice with hypnosis. His strength was different from that of Vanoka, and others at this time. But he was still numb in his hands by Jin. Taking this opportunity, Blackbird came to Jin again. Although there was a big height difference, he still reached out and grabbed Jin's wrist, and then an embarrassing scene appeared. The flames were still there, the wings were still there, and Jin still maintained his original posture. Hey, what kind of monsters are you guys? Once again, his fruit ability failed again. The dark fruit had worked wonders when he fought Ace before, but once it was put on the people of the beasts, this ability failed again. It was obvious that it was not his fruit that had a problem, but these beasts' ability users had a problem. In fact, Blackbird's dark fruit still had an effect on Jin, and it could suppress the power that originally belonged to the Tyrannodon, which meant that Jin could not transform temporarily. However, the dark fruit was powerless against the power from the fossil pterosaur and the Lunarians. Jin could still use the skills of Pokemon, and could still release the flames brought by his talent, and would not lose his wings because of this. But Blackbird didn't know this. With the example of Drake in front of him, he had deep doubts about the ability users of the beasts, and even thought of Quinn's bounty. That guy can create an ability user who is immune to the dark fruit. He must be eliminated. At this moment, the past reports about Quinn appeared in Blackbird's memory. He even felt that Quinn was the biggest foreshadowing in his future plans. How dare you be distracted at this time, Hellflame Emperor. The flames bathed his whole body, and the flames of Jin covered both himself and Blackbird. Then he flapped his wings, got rid of Blackbird's dark gravity, and came to the sky, and transformed into the form of a fossil pterosaur. I will kill all your subordinates in front of you. Come and see the hunting method of the ancient pterosaur. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 937, Just a Navy, who said I was going to run away. If Quinn knew what Blackbird was thinking at this moment, he would definitely regret not giving Jin some special plague bombs, so that he could crush Blackbird to dust. The Navy targeted him, but he endured it. It is very common for pirates to be wanted by the Navy. Even if these things did not happen, he would definitely be wanted. The world government targeted him, but he endured it. It's just a pot, and he will get used to it. Although the only alive is very targeted at him, there is nothing he can do about it. He took the blame, but also received corresponding rewards. When the news that Blackbird also targeted him reached Quinn's ears, he would definitely explode on the spot. Why did a mere Blackbird target him, Grandpa Quinn? However, Quinn did not need to worry about such things for the time being. At this time, Jin was carrying out indiscriminate attacks on the Blackbird pirates. Pteranodon is a sky creature that lived in the Cretaceous period. Large pteranodons have a wingspan of up to 12 meters. They soar in the sky and hunt fish in the water and weak animals on the shore. The fossil pterosaur is the overlord of the ancient sky. It is said that it is a fierce Pokemon that can soar in the vast ancient sky while screaming loudly. Anything that moves may become the target of its attack. Blackbird suffered the pain of being burned by flames again. He didn't understand why all the beast's ability users could ignore his dark fruit. Ace also didn't understand why he couldn't use his ability at all when he was caught by Blackbird. But Jin was caught by Blackbird, so what should happen? With Vanoka's example in front and Blackbird's warning in the back, Other members of the Blackbird Pirates also began to protect themselves, commonly known as running for their lives. Let's start with you. Jin's eyes turned back and forth several times, and finally locked on Laffit. In Jin's view, the silly looking badgers, and the poisonous Q with a sudden death expression on his face could not escape. Only Laffit, who could fly, had the greatest possibility of escape. Therefore, he had to deal with the guy who was most likely to escape first. With a flap of his wings, in a few blinks of an eye, Laffit found himself covered by a shadow, and a huge claw was grabbing him. In terms of kicking skills, Jin is not as good as Shaina, but it does not mean that he can't do it. Since his beast form is a pterosaur, he has his own use of his legs. Jin doesn't have any fixed fighting style, and his whole body can be used as his weapon. In the original timeline, when he learned that Big Mom and her pirate group were taking the main ship Queen Mom Anthem to invade Wano country by riding the waterfall, he transformed into a toothless pterosaur and kicked the ship down the waterfall alone. This was also his highlight, before he turned into a disaster. Laffit flapped his wings hard, but he couldn't get rid of Jin's pursuit, and the sharp claws were getting closer and closer to him. Seeing that he couldn't escape, Laffit turned around, condensed the armed color domineering to the front of the cane, and stabbed Jin's claws. Click. With a crisp sound, Laffit's cane broke in two. Haki has a limit. Once Haki is used up, it will take some time to recover. Except for a few people, no one will choose the mode of full body armor color. Most people will concentrate Haki on one point. Laffit just did that. A small amount of Haki maintains the weapon, and most of the Haki is concentrated on the tip of the cane. But until the cane breaks, Jin's movements are not affected. Instead, there are many more white feathers in the sky. That's not how you use wings. Lunarians learn to crawl first, then learn to walk. When they can run, they will learn how to fly. This is the survival instinct of this tribe. Jin can be said to be the authority in winged flight. Stop it. When Jin was about to kill Laffit, Blackbird below suddenly rushed up. Darkness flowed on his left hand, and a powerful gravitational vortex captured Jin's movements in the sky, while a pair of claws were put on his right fist, grabbing Jin above. Blackbird didn't want to fight with Jin, but he couldn't watch him destroy his base, so he had to make this choice. Unlike Jin and Laffit's flying ability, Blackbird came to this position entirely by relying on physical skills. At this time, black smoke kept coming out from behind him, and some crushed gravel hit Jin like a cannonball. It's just that this kind of attack made Jin have no desire to dodge at all. What the Lunarians are most proud of is not the ability to manipulate fire and fly, but the tenacious vitality. The flames behind them mean their own form. When the flames are burning, their defense is very strong. This kind of ordinary attack can't break their defense at all. It's just that the appearance of Blackbird also gave Laffit a breathing space, allowing him to escape from Jin's attack smoothly. Do you still have the courage to attack actively? I have planned this dream for decades. How can I let you destroy it here? Dark water. Facing Blackbird's attack, Jin did not choose to contact, but waved his wings to pull away. The previous contact made him understand what Blackbird's ability is. Although being hit didn't have much of an effect, he could still fly in the air, but Jin didn't want Blackbird to limit his ability like this. If you have the ability, stop them all and see. Flying Fire Emperor. The rock fall and the flames merged, and a more powerful fire meteor fell from the sky. It was not as powerful as Akanu's meteor volcano, but the huge rocks burning with flames covered a large area. Whether it was Blackbird in front of him, Laffit who was pulling away, or Badgers and Poison Q who were fleeing, they were all covered by the rain of fire. Dark Cave Road. Blackbird could only choose to hold up the darkness to resist Jin's attack, but at this time, Jin saw something different in his peripheral vision. On the horizon, 3 flagpoles gradually emerged, and the Navy's seagull flag appeared in Jin's sight. Blackbird, who was knocked down to the ground again, also saw the 3 warships that appeared and laughed immediately. Ha 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 ha, you thief. I'm here. I'm finally here. You never thought that I'd make a deal with the Navy a long time ago. Now I'm one of the 7 warlords of the sea. It's easy to change a country, but hard to change one's nature. Arrogance is Blackbird's nature. Even though he suffered a lot of losses in this regard, he still didn't change this habit. The appearance of the Navy made him feel that he had reinforcement and regained the confidence to speak. According to the agreement between Blackbird and the Navy, he handed Ace over to the Navy in exchange for a seat in the 7 Warlords of the Sea. These Navy officers in charge of escorting must carry the appointment letter of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. From this moment on, he and the Navy are already allies. Wait, I will pay you back for today's revenge sooner or later. Why sooner or later? Why not settle it now? Jin's words interrupted Blackbird's thoughts. He thought Jin would choose to retreat when he saw the support of the Navy. Facing this flying opponent, Blackbird had no choice but to speak harshly. He didn't expect that Jin had no intention of retreating at all when facing the Navy's warships. You bastard. The troublesome guys are here, and the cat and mouse game should be over, but you can try to see if these guys can save you. In order not to be disturbed, Jin decided to deal with Blackbird as soon as possible. Jin's appearance began to change, and the pterosaur's body was covered by white light. When the light faded, several sharp rock spikes appeared on his wings and body. Chapter 938. I'm just informing you. This is the mega evolution of Jin. For fossil pterosaur, its mega is very special. Since fossil pterosaur is a Pokémon from ancient times, its specific form has not been determined. After mega evolution, fossil pterosaur's body will be covered with a layer of sharp rocks. It looks like ordinary rocks, but these rocks are very special. They are harder than diamonds. Fossil pterosaur with this layer of rock thorn armor will be more ferocious than before, both in defense and attack. However, some scholars have always advocated that this is a real fossil pterosaur. In the view of these scholars, the mega of fossil pterosaur is not a super evolution, but a return to its original appearance. Whether this should be regarded as a primitive return or a mega evolution is something that scholars in the Pokémon world should consider. Jin only felt a little bit, and power was constantly gushing out of his body. The wings of fossil pterosaur in the sky closed. When the wings spread again, Jin's disappeared arms had returned, but behind him were still the dragon wings of fossil pterosaur. He entered the human beast form, and became serious at this time. The sky is my domain. With a flap of his wings, Jin appeared in front of Blackbird, with a raging fire burning on the blade, and the roar of the fire dragon could be heard faintly. Fire dragon / the emperor. Ah. A powerful blow slashed Blackbird's shoulder, and the front of the blade had completely cut into Blackbird's body. The burning flames burned his body, and with Blackbird's screams, he was cut down from the sky by Jin. And Jin did not stop. With the power given by his wings, he kept pressing Blackbird from the sky to the ground. Blackbird had no advantage in fighting in the sky. Without the leverage point, he was simply Jin's toy. Only his subordinates were glad for this. After all, it was a good thing for them that Jin had shifted his target. The pain from the wings of the monster reminded Laffit that he was only a hair's breadth away from death just now. Since he was recruited by Blackbird, it was the first time he felt that death was so close to him. Not to mention the two people below. Poison Q and Strong were already in a weak and sickly state. They were able to survive at this time thanks to the foolish badges. He carried Ace in his left hand and Poison Q and Strong in his right hand, and survived the rain of fire, but his body was seriously injured. Captain Teach. Badges may not be very strong, but he is loyal to Blackbird. This is the first time he has seen Blackbird being beaten from all directions. Although Blackbird used to scream miserably, he could still fight back. But this time is different. Even if Blackbird's fist hits Jin, it has no effect. Instead, he will be beaten back by Jin. Boom. The land cracked inch by inch. In the huge deep pit, darkness continued to surge around, and the flames were burning fiercely, but Jin noticed something wrong. Your body is really strong. His goal with this knife was to cut Blackbird in two directly. The blade also left a huge scar on Blackbird's body, but he was unable to cut further. Domineering and darkness, two forces resisted his slash at the same time. Blackbird had been in the air before, and after being attacked by Jin, he began to fall. Jin did not notice anything unusual on the way down, until he touched the ground. With the cutting board of the earth, he felt the specialness of Blackbird's body. Thief, hahaha, it's useless. Whether it's slashing or flames, it's useless after all. Although I don't know why your ability can ignore darkness, your attack can be absorbed by darkness after all. Wait for me to chop off your head. I hope you can still be so tough. Jin only has a knife, but he also has wings. At this time, Jin used the blade to restrict Blackbird's right arm and stepped on his left hand with his left foot. Although Blackbird's power temporarily blocked his blade, his wings had formed a guillotine posture and swung towards Blackbird's head. Dark acupoints. Darkness surged, but the target was not Jin, but Blackbird himself. He was the ability user of the dark fruit. Although the expression of the dark fruit was similar to that of a black hole, its essence was darkness. He could not elementalize, but could integrate into darkness. In addition to swallowing foreign objects, he also has the ability to enter his own darkness. At this time, the dark acupuncture point has become Blackbird's escape route. However, this action is much slower than other natural elemental transformations. Although he avoided the fatal blow, he still had 3 more bloody cuts on his body. The wounds were deep enough to see the bones, but they were gradually being fused by the darkness. During this period, there were even fewer wailings. For Blackbird, wailing is a way to relieve pain, but now he has no physical strength to waste on this. Thief, hahaha, I won. Flame disaster, now it's time for you to retreat. The location where they fought was close to the coast. Although the island was deserted, the port could still dock large ships, which was why Blackbird chose to trade here. After the dark transfer, Blackbird also came to a relatively safe location, and the personnel sent by the Navy also appeared behind him. If you want to choose the most undignified among the pirates, Blackbird is probably on the list. It's not like he hasn't done things like kneeling and begging for mercy. He doesn't think there is anything wrong with relying on the Navy. After all, he wanted to take the position of Shichibuke, and also wanted to use the power of the Navy. Hey, I have prepared the Fire Fist Ace as agreed. I should be a Shichibuke now. This guy is a senior cadre of Kaido. Let's take him down together. Get out of the way. Don't block the way. The leader, Momotosuke, didn't take Blackbird's words seriously at all, but kicked him aside. Most of the Navy would not care about the suggestions of the Shichibuke, unless there was an order from the top. The order Momotosuke received was only to escort Ace, and Jin was not in the mission target at all. The Navy who carried out this escort mission were not hawks, and they did not have the idea of destroying pirates immediately when they saw them. Flame disaster, Jin, you are not the target of this mission. I don't want to have a meaningless battle. The order of the world government was for her to escort Ace back first, and she didn't know why, but she still chose to execute it. What a coincidence. I'm not interested in you either. I don't care what Ace wants to do, but Blackbird's life belongs to me. Pirate, we didn't make a deal with you. I'm just informing you. Chapter 939 General Candidate, Jin's Blue Flame. As soon as he finished speaking, Jin had already transformed into a pterosaur, with cold light flashing on his wings, and rushed towards Blackbird. Dangong Huang. The wings were like knives, and at a very high speed, a sound of sonic boom spread to the ears of everyone present, and 2 air blades had already slashed to both sides. Before the attack hit Blackbird, the people next to him suffered an unexpected disaster. There was no one of his own here. To Jin, everything here was a target that could be killed. Get down. Laffit, who came to Beige's side, bent down and pressed a few people. Looking at the falling hair, even Ace seemed to be frightened. That blow almost chopped him off. Before, he thought that, if Jin killed Blackbird, he could take the opportunity to escape, but now it seems that Jin is even crazier than he thought. 3 vice admirals of the Navy and ordinary captains of the Whitebird pirates had to temporarily avoid the edge. But Jin wanted to kill Blackbird in front of them, without caring about the consequences. This is the tradition of the beasts. Now, the beasts will consider many things before taking action, such as not taking action for fear of the impact afterward. But once they start fighting, starting with Kaido, none of them will consider the consequences. Impact. They have already started fighting, and it is useless to talk about it after the fight. Ace? Who is that? Not familiar. The leader of the Whitebird pirates died in the aftermath of the fight between the leaders of the Beasts pirates. It is embarrassing to say it out. You saw it. This guy is a lunatic. This is a big leader of the Beasts. Aren't you the Navy? Isn't it your duty to catch pirates? Surrounded by the sea, Blackbird alone can't escape from King's pursuit. As King said, in front of Blackbird, King is the overlord of the sky, and King, who has the advantage of the sky, will never let him go. Shut up. You are just a pirate. You are not qualified to talk about this to the Navy. Momosuke, whose real name is Jian, is a vice admiral of the Navy headquarters, but she also has another identity candidate for admiral. No matter how many people died in the internal fighting among pirates, Teo2 didn't care. Although she was not a radical hawk, she was also a member of the Navy, and as a candidate for admiral, she was different from ordinary vice admirals. Not only was she stronger in strength, but there was no problem with her own position. But she really couldn't let Blackbird die here. Crocodile's defeat had already made the world government feel ashamed. Blackbird originally appeared as a substitute for Crocodile, to fill the vacancy of the 7 warlords of the sea. As Blackbird said, since Teo2 appeared here, his status as a 7 warlord of the sea has been confirmed. He was killed a few minutes after taking office. The 7 warlords of the sea, the world government can't afford to lose this person. Kinpira was unsheathed, and Teo2's blade was already aimed at Jin. Don't be careless, that guy is a monster, an out and out monster. Teo2 didn't want to care about Blackbird, and Blackbird didn't want to care about Teo2 either. If he wasn't afraid that Teo2 would be unlucky after Jin's car overturned, he wouldn't remind Teo2 at all. But Blackbird had no intention of attacking, but hid behind. If Momosuke and the others were really no match, Blackbird would help fight the enemy together. He didn't want to expose all his abilities in front of the Navy. Although the dark fruit appeared in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, the abilities recorded on it were only part of it. Some abilities were also figured out by Blackbird himself. The dark fruit helped him offset a lot of damage, but there were still hideous bloodstains on his body, which just gave him a reason to hide. At the same time, Huashe Ocean and Stolberry also reacted, but they did not participate in the battle, but looked at Blackbird vigilantly. Pirates are not very trustworthy. They can leave their backs to their comrades, but they cannot completely believe in the so-called 7 warlords of the sea. The reason why Momosuke, a general candidate, brought 2 vice admirals from the headquarters to take over was because they were worried that there was a conspiracy in the middle. Clang. Kinpila chopped at Jin's wings, and a huge force suddenly came from the blade. The difference in gender between the two sides was innate, and coupled with the difference in body size and race, Jin's strength was far greater than Jian. If she took it hard, Teo2 felt that she would definitely be carried into the air by Jin. Therefore, she did not take it hard, but slid her wrist forward, and at the same time, made a bridge-like posture, using her arm and blade as a fulcrum to slide down. At this stage, her blade was always close to Jin's body. She was using Jin's impact to make Jin hurt himself. The idea was good, but the reality was very different. Kinpila brought out a series of sparks on Jin's body, but there was not even a piece of stone dust on the ground. In terms of defense, Jin in full fire state is even more terrifying than Jack of Steel. Under the premise of not opening a barrier, Jin's defense is the best among all beasts. The name of the Lunarian god race is not for nothing. Moreover, Jin had no intention of attacking Teo2. Blackbird was his main target. After passing Teo2, he continued to rush towards Blackbird. "Arsehole, you lunatic must pick a fight with me." Jin in the state of fossil pterosaur used his wings as a knife. Blackbird had to use both hands to cast dark water to block Jin's wings. However, after he came into contact with Jin, an unexpected scene appeared. Jin actually returned to human form. The power of the devil fruit will still be restrained by the dark fruit, and the fossil pterosaur is still transformed from the pteranodon. When in contact, Jin can still use skills, but cannot maintain the transformed state, and the mega form automatically exits. After exiting from the beast form, their movements became like Blackbird grabbing Jin's arms. Hahaha, it seems that my ability is still effective. You are not completely immune. Yeah, it's a troublesome ability, but do you think that's enough? Idiot. What are you still watching? Why don't you take action now? He wanted the Navy to fight Jin, and the Navy actually had a similar idea, so they didn't take action immediately. But Blackbird was panicking. His dark fruit was not seastone, which could directly make the ability user lose strength, and he didn't know what kind of strange ability Jin had. Blackbird felt a sense of crisis in his heart and shouted immediately. Although the Navy was watching the show, they would not stand idly by when the opportunity really came. The attacks of Strawberry and Huasheoshin came at the same time, and Teoto followed closely and slashed towards Jin's neck. The attacks of the three hit Jin's body, but the touch from their hands told them that they didn't hurt Jin at all. With the combined attack of the three, Blackbird successfully got rid of Jin, and Jin flew a distance under their combined attack. But in the next moment, Jin's body changed again. His fire disappeared. No, it didn't disappear. This guy's fire turned blue. Chapter 940. Saiyans are so good at reading this. At first, they thought the flame behind Jin was extinguished, but they soon overturned this view, because the air above Jin seemed to be distorted. That is a phenomenon that occurs when high temperature causes gas to rise. Looking down, Jin's black clothes are burning with flames of completely different colors. It turns out that his flame has never been extinguished, but because of the change of color, it has become less obvious than before. Under the reflection of the blue sky and the ocean, Jin's blue fire gives people an illusion of extinguishing. The limited information about Blackbird comes from Drake, but Drake is not a person with the ability of fruit transformation, but a pure ability given by Arceus. The sealing ability of the dark fruit has no effect on her. Jin has also had contact with Blackbird now, but he did not transform at all at that time, so it was not until this time that the sealing ability of Blackbird's dark fruit took effect on Jin. Although it caused his fossil pterosaur ability to be unable to fully exert, it didn't matter. He had more than one trump card. As Lunarians, he and Shaina were born with their own racial talents. Wings and flames are external manifestations. When the flame burns, the defense will be enhanced, and when the flame is extinguished, the speed will be enhanced. This is a posture derived by the Lunarians to deal with different situations, but their posture is more than that. Flame is their plaything. For the Lunarians, controlling the flame is their instinct. After being free, Jin and Shaina are constantly training, and the purpose is to make themselves stronger. For ordinary Lunarians, ordinary flames are their upper limit, but Arceus broke the upper limit of Jin and Shaina and gave them more possibilities. Jin's blue flame is one of the manifestations. There are many reasons for the formation of blue flames in nature. The degree of combustion and the burning material will cause the color of the flame to change, but Jin's flame has only one reason: temperature. In this form, the flame of the Lunarians will not be extinguished. It should be said that they will not actively extinguish the flame. As long as the flame can still burn, he can have the defense of the previous flame form and the speed of the fireless form at the same time. According to a certain cosmic race, he is now a super Lunarian who surpasses ordinary Lunarians. Since Blackbird can affect his state, let's change to a state that he can't affect. Round 2 begins. The limitation of body functions is usually to protect one's body. The fire mode of the Lunarians is an example. If they take into account both speed and defense, their bodies may not be able to bear it, so they evolved this ability. But now, Jin has broken this limitation. His body can bear this load now. If there is any disadvantage, it is that it is not very durable. Boom. The flames burst out, and Jin's wings were completely covered by flames. The flames that were originally close to colorless gradually stabilized and showed a deep blue color. The hot breath made Huasheoshin and Strawberry take 2 steps back. This is the third posture of the Super Lunarians: attack. The higher flame temperature makes up for the disadvantages of their original attack power, making them infinitely close to the hexagonal warriors. The guy who is in the way, just die with that guy. Ghost Flame Emperor. Unlike the cat catching the mouse and bullying the weak, Jin first locked his target on Teoto. Although she was a woman, she was the most difficult one in Jin's eyes. The blue flames cut outward like a sickle. Although Teoto dodged the blow, the hair on her forehead was burned into a ball just because she was close to the high temperature slash, and it emitted a burning smell. Seeing Teoto dodge the flying slash, Jin didn't care and continued to swing the knife at Teoto. Bang, clang, the blades collided repeatedly, and Teoto fell into a passive defense stage. As a candidate for the general, her observation haki was not weak, but her body could not keep up with Jin's speed. Facing the continuous slashes, she could only barely parry. After all, the candidates for the general are not generals. They have a certain gap from the generals, but it is not so huge. If there is really no one available, they can temporarily replace that position. Similar to the bursts of Setsuna and Manderfish, they also have ways to burst their strength in a short period of time. But they can't always be regarded as generals, otherwise when the world conscription comes, she and Chatten will be promoted at the same time. When Teotu was parrying Jin's attack, a scream came into her ears. The initial knife didn't completely cut into the air, but chopped into Blackbird. He was burned by the blue flame, and wailed miserably again. Jin knew that this might not burn him to death, but it was enough to make him suffer. Snap. After another parry, Teotu found that her blade was stuck. Looking closely, Jin's weapon had turned into a shark tooth knife. With a flip of her wrist, Teotu's weapon was picked up by Jin. She never thought that Jin would use such a method in a fight. Despicable. Is this also a swordsman? Whether it's a knife or a sword, they are all fighting styles. They are just weapons, nothing more. Jin's shark tooth knife was almost specially prepared to deal with swordsmen, and it often had an unexpected effect. After picking up Teotu's weapon, Jin's shark teeth on the blade closed again, and swung the knife at Teotu again. Without her weapon, Teotu had no choice but to evade, and wanted to take back her weapon. However, she could not break free from the blue flame mode Jin without her weapon. Moreover, without the influence of the dark fruit, Jin had already re-entered the human beast form. With the double blessing, Teotu soon fell into crisis. Strawberry and Huasheoshin appeared at the same time, crossing their swords to block Jin's attack. When Teotu and Jin were fighting just now, they did not watch the show, but Jin unilaterally ignored their attacks and let their weapons cut him. That kind of painless attack could not hit Jin in the blue flame mode at all. It was not easy for them to find this opportunity to intervene, but the result of intervening in the battle was not friendly. Clang, puff. The weapons of the two were bounced away at the same time. Huasheoshin barely avoided Jin's slash, but Strawberry was not so lucky. Although he dodged the blade, he could not avoid Jin's wings. The wings of the fossil pterosaur were like sharp razors. Strawberry's defense with the color of armed color could not resist Jin's attack. Lieutenant General Stolberg fell to his knees helplessly, and Jin's wings were immediately pulled out of his chest. A large amount of blood flowed out of Stolberg's mouth, but not a single drop of blood flowed from the wound on his chest. The hideous wound had long been sealed by Jin's flames. Chapter 941. If you want to escalate the conflict, I will fight you to the end. When facing Manderfish, Stolberg was kicked in the head by Manderfish. He was a rare long-headed person, and his head was naturally longer than others. After being kicked in the head, although he received effective treatment, and did not leave too serious sequelae, it still caused a certain impact. At this time, he also became a breakthrough in front of Jin. As Stolberg fell, Huasheoshin's eyes, which had been squinting, widened, and the cigar at the corner of his mouth slipped to the ground. There are many old smokers in the Navy. The Navy is a very stressful profession. Except for some heartless people who are not affected, the rest of the generals are often in a high pressure state, and smoking and drinking have become their way to vent stress. Huasheoshin is a senior smoker among them. Whether he is fighting or receiving intelligence, even if a disaster happens in front of him, he never lets go of the cigar in his mouth. But Stolberg has been his colleague for many years. Seeing his colleagues and comrades die in front of him, grief still swept his heart. Originally, this was just a simple escort mission. They never thought that there would be such a big accident in this operation. Strawberry, the pain was only temporary. Since the beginning of the Great Pirate Era, the Navy has been facing casualties. He had no time to be sad, as he was still in the battle. After dealing with Strawberry, all the pressure came to Huasheoshin. Clang, clang. There were no extra moves. Jin just swung vigorously. Under the continuous heavy blows, his blade had already shown signs of melting. But Strawberry's death bought a certain amount of time after all. Teotu, who picked up his weapon again, rejoined the battle, and shared a lot of pressure for Huasheoshin. Vice Admiral Huasheoshin, now is not the time to be sad. I know, Vice Admiral Teotu, I will try my best to attract his attention, and the main attack will be left to you. Teotu's command power among the three is unquestionable. She is young, but she is stronger, otherwise she would not have the status of a candidate for the Admiral. Compared with the admirals of the headquarters, Teotu and Chatten have a certain gap. But at the same time, she is also stronger than these ordinary vice admirals. With the previous lesson, Teotu was more cautious about Jin's weapon. If the shark tooth knife hadn't knocked his weapon away, Strawberry might not have died so quickly. But grief and anger may not necessarily be transformed into strength. Although they were angry about the death of their colleagues, this could not allow them to directly cross the gap in strength between them and Jin. If anger alone could defeat all enemies, then there would be no point in training. Dark Water. Blackbird, who had extinguished the flames on his body and recovered from the pain, stepped forward again. His fat body became very flexible. He dodged Jin's slash and grabbed his ankle, allowing Jin to release the fossil pterosaur state again. He wanted to watch the Navy and Jin fight, but the facts did not support him to do so. One of the 3 Navy Vice Admirals had already died, and Huasheoshin had just been stabbed by Jin. If another one died, it would be unlikely to contain Jin. Once this madman was free, he would definitely be the unlucky one. For himself, Blackbird took the risk to approach Jin. The amplification of blue flame plus transformation is really unbearable. Blackbird couldn't figure out why there were so many layers of buffs on Jin's body. Maybe it would be good to remove one layer. At the same time, Laffit also intervened in this battle. He was the only one who could intervene among the remaining people present, but he only dared to take the opportunity to sneak attack Jin. As for ordinary soldiers, the only fate they would have, if they came over now, was to be written on the list of dead. Once faced with an overly powerful enemy on the sea, the best choice for ordinary soldiers is to stay away from the battlefield and become an atmosphere group. Otherwise they can notify their families to collect pensions. Don't you have any other support from the Navy? Do you really want to put such a monster back to the sea? At this time, Blackbird acted more like a Navy than the Navy. There was nothing he could do about it. When people knew that a madman wanted to kill them at all costs, they would definitely hope that this person would disappear forever. Otherwise, even if he escaped this time, he would have to worry about being hunted down by others in the future. He despised the behavior of the beasts, but at the same time he hoped that a bigger one would come to his side. Fire Dragon Emperor. The Fire Dragon forced Teotu to retreat, but Jin did not continue to chase him. Instead, he proposed a condition. You can try, or I will give you a chance. How about calling each other for support now? Mr. Kaido has been very idle recently. He wouldn't mind coming out for some activities. Jin was not unable to call people. If he wanted to, he would have called them a long time ago, but this was Drake's business. He didn't want others to interfere in this matter. He wanted to handle it himself, so he dragged it until now. As for what he said just now, he was betting that the Navy would not do this. Jin didn't study politics so much, but he knew that the Navy had been controlling the extent of disputes and avoiding large-scale wars as much as possible. Otherwise it would not have sat back and watched these sea emperors occupy the new world for so long. In fact, just as he guessed, Teotu didn't know what the specific idea was, but without orders, don't take the initiative to provoke a war with the 4 emperors. Don't face the 4 emperors themselves. This is the Navy's rule. Only the sword troops don't have to abide by this rule, but correspondingly, the Navy will not be responsible for everything the sword does. I've said before, I'm not interested in who you guys are going to take away. Leave this guy to me. We can pretend that no one saw each other. Teotu, Huasheoshin, Blackbird, and Laffit, the 4 of them joined forces to restrict his actions. If he could get the Navy to leave through this kind of small negotiation, Jin wouldn't care. The beasts don't care about conflicts, but the main direction is still development. According to Arceus, everything is ready, only the east wind is missing. It's been decades, and there's no need to rush. Hey, I'm a Shichibuke now, and you're the Navy. You won't make such a deal with the 4 emperors. Looking at Teotu's gloomy face, Blackbird panicked. If Teotu agreed, he would become a real Blackbird, the kind that was burned black. In fact, Teotu was also a little annoyed. If she had known that Jin could do this, she, a candidate for an admiral and 2 vice admirals, couldn't take down the other party, so she shouldn't have intervened before. The death of the vice admiral of the headquarters for a Shichibuke was a real loss, but at this point, peace talks were no longer possible. No one would accept negotiations with pirates after the death of a colleague, except Kobe. Chapter 942, American Swordsman, A Song of Ice and Fire on the Sea. In the final analysis, this is the result of Teo2's underestimation of Jin's strength. If it was Kaido or Whitebird instead of Jin who appeared in front of them, the Navy would not say anything, and would definitely turn around and leave. As for Blackbird, they can also temporarily ignore his existence. A person's reputation is like a tree's shadow. Only those sea emperors are the real threat in the eyes of the Navy. Vice Admiral Ocean, today may be the most dangerous time. It seems so. Maybe I will die here, but I have thought about this since the day I joined the Navy. Taking off his hat, Ocean took out a cigar again, put two fingers together to make a spark, lit his cigar, and inhaled it to the bottom. I hope those rubbish of the world government can move so quickly in other places in the future. The world government does not believe in pirates, and pirates do not believe in the world government either. Today Shichibuke have their own purposes, so they use the tiger skin of Shichibuke to do things. Protecting the country, stealing intelligence, planning for the future, and reducing troubles. No one is working for the world government. Therefore, when Blackbird was trading, he asked the world government to publish the news in the newspaper before trading, and after the trade, he completely authenticated his identity as a Shichibuke. Although he was a quasi-Shichibuke before, it was already known to everyone, but many details were not announced. Outsiders only knew that there was a guy named Teach in the Shichibuke. With the death of Strawberry in the news in the newspaper, Teo2's only choice now was to fight to the death. Looking at Teo2 and Ocean's plan, Blackbird just breathed a sigh of relief, and the blazing blade passed in front of him again. Just like before, taking the opportunity of Jin's attack on him, Blackbird tried to contact his body with the ability of the dark fruit to weaken his combat power. Even after the weakening, Jin's defense was incomprehensible to them. If they didn't use the dark fruit to contain it, they really couldn't do it. Jin would try not to be caught by Blackbird before, and frequently switching forms was also a very troublesome thing, but this time it was different. Jin took the initiative to let Blackbird grab his wrist, and with his defense in the blue flame mode, he took the subsequent attacks. Blackbird, do you have strong vitality, or is it the special power of the fruit? I just want to verify this question. Will you die without the fruit? Jin showed a dangerous smile on his face, and turned his wrist, aiming the handle of the knife at Blackbird. Bang! A gunshot appeared here at an inopportune time. Jin's actions once again exceeded the cognition of Teo2 and Ocean. This guy obviously has strong strength, but he is equipped with all kinds of insidious props. At this time, the end of Jin's handle turned into a muzzle, and the gunshot came from here. A sharp nail shot out from his handle, pierced the skin, and nailed into Blackbird's body. This little trick of Seaston? Blackbird did not expect Jin to use such a little trick, nor did he think that someone could make Seaston into bullets. Even the Navy only use large pieces of Seaston to make prison bullets. The outside world cannot process Seaston in detail, but it is different in Wano country. There, Seaston can be processed into various fine shapes, and even more special things can be done. Puff! Jin's blade pierced through Blackbird's eye socket, and then came out from the back of his head. With a miserable cry, Blackbird lay on the ground powerlessly, trying to pull out the nail in his chest, but he couldn't. The purity of the Seaston is extremely high, which is fatal to the ability users. It is also Jin's way of dealing with some ability users. Despicable? Shameless? He never cares about these things. As long as he can solve the enemy and become the final winner, he doesn't care about the process in between. The brass knuckles hidden on the gloves and the shark teeth in the blade are all 4 different types of enemies. The Seaston bullet in the handle is to give the ability user an unexpected blow. Some complex abilities are very difficult to deal with, and even with the restraint of domineering, it is not easy to deal with. Compared with domineering, Seaston targets the ability user much faster. The beasts that occupy the origin of Seaston will not leave Seaston unused. There are only a handful of craftsmen who can make such high purity Seaston weapons, and they are treated like treasures in Wano country. Your brain should have been pierced. It seems that this tenacious vitality comes from your body. If you burn to ashes, can you still live? The barrier that was guarding expanded to both sides around Jin, and relied on its almost invincible characteristics to push Teo2 and Ocean out. Then the blue flames completely enveloped the area. Captain Teach. The high temperature made the air almost distorted. Laffit couldn't get close to the battlefield below and didn't know what Blackbird in the flames had become. I say, isn't it a little too hot here? Ice Age. General Cuson. The thick ice layer spread to the center of the island, freezing Blackbird on the ground and Jin, who was about to continue swinging his sword. The flames on the ground were extinguished, leaving only a large amount of water vapor. Ordinary ice couldn't extinguish Jin's flames all at once. In terms of the temperature of the flame, he was already a level ahead of the user of the flame fruit. Although Cuson froze Jin, it was only for a moment. The next moment, the ice on his body vaporized, and Jin regained his freedom. Headquarters Admiral, the people of Aokiji Navy are really idle. Vice Admiral, Admiral Candidate, and now the current Admiral, the speed of the Navy's maneuvering, made Jin feel annoyed. I didn't expect there would be someone like you here. Shouldn't you be with Kaido and be his right-hand man? Without continuing to talk to Aokiji, Jin swung his sword to chop off Blackbird's head, but Aokiji came in front of Jin in an instant and stopped Jin. Although there was a big difference in height, there was a strong sense of oppression. You Navy are really dedicated to the Shichibuke. If you had found him a few days earlier, it wouldn't matter if you killed him, but you're slower than those newspapers, which is troublesome. What's more, there's Strawberry. You should go to the city to cool down with your scorching flame. Strawberry's body was already lying on the side. The death of a vice admiral of the headquarters was already a major accident. How to deal with it afterwards was a matter for the higher-ups. Cuson didn't intend to let Jin leave like this, but he was just ice and couldn't catch up with the pterosaur bathed in fire. With Blackbird half dead and no one able to limit Jin's ability, he couldn't keep Jin, and in the end he could only watch Jin fly away. Chapter 943, Strange Vitality, Gunpowder Sculptor Quinn. Jin is the most realistic Kada. He doesn't care about means in battle. When he judges that the situation is not favorable to him, he will not fight. With his current ability, it is not difficult to fight with the general of the headquarters. Before the end of the blue flame mode, Cuson can't do anything to him. The problem is that it is meaningless. The general is not so easy to kill. Even if it is a real opponent of the same level, it will take several days. Unless you want to die, it is difficult to deal with this monster when it runs. There is also a peach rabbit next to it. Jin can't be distracted when facing Cuson. At that time, the peach rabbit is a threat to him. The current battle situation is not favorable to him, so retreat first and wait for the next opportunity. He doesn't want to be rescued after the car overturns. Then he will be completely ashamed to see people. His fighting style is ugly to say that there is no bottom line, which also indirectly shows that he doesn't value face like others, but this does not mean that he doesn't want it at all. As a major Kada of the Beasts and a member of Arceus' family, it is too embarrassing to be arrested by the Navy. He doesn't want to become the kind of person under Whitebird, a mere Navy idiot, facing a noble Air Force unit, could only choose to watch like this. General Cuson, why are you here? I was asked by someone, but it was not originally for this. According to the development of the original timeline, he should have reminded the Straw Hats and others because of Robin, but it is different now. He has nothing to do with that group of people. He is just patrolling the nearby sea. His appearance here is also related to Garp. Although Garp is getting more and more unruly, he is a senior Navy officer after all, and the internal information cannot be hidden from him. Strictly speaking, Teotu is also a general who is familiar with Garp and has a close relationship with him, so he asked her to lead the team. But Garp is still not at ease, worried that someone will attack Ace in the middle of the journey, so he asked Cuson to come and take a look. As for himself, his identity is a Navy, and he is Ace's grandfather. He was asked to escort Ace in person. He was afraid that he would not be able to help but make mistakes. How much sea he released during the war at the top has always been an unknown. With limited information, considering the extent of the damage to Marineford when Golden Lion attacked it, one can't help but suspect that it was actually caused by Garp. At this stage, if he slipped, no one could say anything to him. The hero's halo brought Garp too much convenience, and his own strength was worthy of this halo. The world government was not easy to deal with this rolling meat. General Cuson, Vice Admiral Strawberry. I saw it. Let's collect the remains first and talk about this when we get back. But what is this black thing? This is Blackbeard, who arrested Ace the Fire Fist. He was also the target of the flame disaster. It was my misjudgment. I should take full responsibility for Stalobera's death. Okay, we are the Navy. This kind of thing is inevitable. Don't blame yourself too much. Let's go back to Marineford first. The higher-ups seem to value this Fire Fist very much. I don't know what they are planning. Kuzan looked at the black unknown object on the ground. Although Kuzan's ice extinguished the fire of Jin, Blackbeard was burned badly before that. The blood hole on his eye was bleeding, but from the ups and downs of his chest, this guy seemed to still have a breath. The old and weak Whitebird could hold on for a while after a Kainu cut off half of his head. It's not surprising that the alien Blackbeard hasn't died yet. Except for a few unlucky people, most people have extremely strong vitality, and Poison Q also came to Blackbeard tremblingly. After searching for a while, he pulled out the Seaston spike. After the Seaston left his body, darkness enveloped Blackbeard's body again, and the damage reduction effect of the dark fruit took effect on this body again. Captain Teach, it looks like there's still hope. Is it difficult? Yes, it's difficult. Over 80% of his body is severely burned, and his left eye was pierced by a knife. It seems that there was some kind of explosion inside. It's just that Captain Teach's body is an alien, otherwise he would have died long ago. Looking at the seriously injured Blackbeard, Poison Q was not worried, but rather a little excited, as if he was very interested in such a seriously injured man. But that guy's knife is really weird. Is there a bomb on the blade? It's not a bomb. That's the use of armed color. It's too early to tell you this now. Vanoka is definitely not saved. Let's save Captain Teach first, otherwise we should prepare to disband. Ahem, that's an interesting activity. I hope our captain is strong enough, and I hope this dark fruit is as magical as he said, but this eye is useless. Is it destined that the captain has to lose this eye? After Poison Q gave Blackbeard an emergency treatment, the Blackbeard pirates returned to the Navy headquarters with Ace and the Navy. The Navy was for follow-up matters, and the Blackbeard pirates were worried that Jin had not left yet, and they would be killed by Jin if they acted alone. At the same time, in the laboratory of Onigashima, Quinn was conducting a brand new experiment. The blue wave ball sent by the Dragonites before had entered his analysis table, providing him with a good idea. But the final result was a bit problematic. This drug is not suitable for humans. If you want human ability users to use it, you need to update it and make a lot of fine-tuning. At this time, Quinn was using an experimental fungus to check the results of the new blue ball, but he had not succeeded in cultivating it. And he did not wait idly, he was shaping the gunpowder at this time. The equipment on him was not those ordinary flintlock rifles that could be used with just some black powder. Those small missiles had extremely high requirements for gunpowder, not only the quality, but also the shape. Due to its small size, in order to ensure sufficient range, the gunpowder fuel must be fully burned. But there seemed to be a problem with his missiles hitting, always accidentally hurting himself. For the sake of accuracy, he redesigned the small missiles installed in his body. It's just that this highly sensitive gunpowder is difficult to be machined and formed in one go. It can only be carved with tools carried by hand. When carving, every knife must be extremely careful. No static electricity and sparks can be generated during the whole process, otherwise the gunpowder will burn violently or even explode. Very good. Slowly, just a little bit more, Quinn muttered to himself about his progress, and his right hand slowly moved the carving knife. Master Quinn, your petri dish succeeded. It succeeded. Boom. He had previously asked his assistant to inform him immediately once there was a result from the experiment on the new blue ball. His men did as he ordered, but looking at the dusty Quinn, he felt that he had come at a bad time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 944, Kaido testing medicine. Ahem. Idiot. Who told you to rush in rashly? Wiping off the gunpowder smoke left by the explosion on his glasses, Quinn looked at the younger brother behind him angrily. He didn't know what went wrong with the attack system he set. According to his design, after he used the Brachiosaurus, the remaining body should have become a powerful fixed point turret. But for some reason, the intensity of the firepower was increased, but the accuracy was a problem. It's not accurate, but the attack can hit the target 100%. It's accurate, but that thing attacks himself 100%, and it has become a tool for self-abuse. After thinking about it, he felt that there must be something wrong with the gunpowder, otherwise how could it attack himself? So he started the work of gunpowder carving. He had been carving for several days, but he didn't expect to be interrupted at the critical moment. If it weren't for his thick skin, he would have sent him away. According to his previous temper, he would definitely throw this younger brother directly to the arena, but he was under the eaves, so Quinn had to make changes. Facing the iron rule above, he didn't dare to violate it. Give me a good reason, or I'll let you practice with brother Kaido. Yes, you. When did I ask you to come here? You said that, as long as the petri dish has a reaction, I will come to inform you immediately. There is nothing more terrible than practicing with Kaido. If there is, it is Kaido looking for someone to practice with after drinking. During the days when Yamato was traveling, they clearly felt that their captain's temper had become much more irritable. He immediately repeated Quinn's previous instructions. Petri dish. I think I said so, but you kid, why are you holding a trash can? Lord Quinn, you may not believe it when I tell you that the things in the petri dish have not reacted, but the failed product that was dumped yesterday survived. A strange situation. Things cultured in the laboratory can survive in various strange places, but they can't survive in the petri dish. Because the changes of this waste product are a bit special, he brought it to Quinn for a view. It's a ghost. So, Lord Quinn, look, I'll handle the matter over there myself. Don't let anyone disturb me. You clean up here for me, but be careful of explosions. Quinn left a last warning in a gloomy tone, but he was just threatening this little brother. It's not particularly difficult to find a few people who can fight, but it's really not easy for him to find a few people with brains. With such a large number of beasts and beast fruits, he didn't find a few suitable assistants. This little brother is already a rare talent. He won't be wasted for inexplicable reasons, but it doesn't prevent Quinn from adding psychological pressure on him. Things that have exploded will not explode again. The things made by him, Quinn, can still guarantee that there are no duds. After the successful cultivation, Quinn plunged into the laboratory again. It was very simple for him to reverse the production method based on the finished product. He was just making a transformation, which was roughly similar to improving veterinary drugs and making them human drugs. I have to say, this is a genius idea, but it's nothing in front of Master Quinn. Millimeters, ha ha ha. After several more experiments, Quinn successfully made a finished product and was bragging about it. He admitted that the design concept of the Rambo ball was good. It was a wild and unrestrained idea to be able to change the fixed form of the animal system in this way. If Mads had seen this result decades earlier, he would have been quite interested in it. But that was all. Quinn still firmly believed that he would not lose to the other party in this regard. You failed a total of 17 times and blew up the laboratory 6 times. Do you call this a piece of cake? Me, ZOCI is right, isn't it? It makes sense. Don't learn from that abominable Polispiny Ammonite. Is it difficult to flatter me at this time? Polispiny Ammonite used words to backstab Quinn as always. It couldn't explain why it always did this. It could only be said that it was used to it. As for Shaina, it was affected by the environment. Polispiny Ammonite taught her some bad things, but it only stayed in words, and it had not evolved to the point of greeting him with I'm telling the truth. And, is your ball really successful? The size of Chopper's rumble ball is no different from that of Malteser's, but the size of the thing Quinn made is about the same as that of the braised lion's head, and the color is much darker, which doesn't look like a success. What do you know as a snail? Although it doesn't look good, the efficacy must be no problem. Let me think about who to try it on. Aren't you an animal type ability user yourself? Ahem. As a researcher, I have to observe its effects. How can I observe it if I eat it myself? And Lord Arceus has transformed my abilities. Who knows if this thing will conflict with Lord Arceus's power? You don't understand academic issues. Just listen to your intelligence. This uncle is going to report on his work. Artificial fruit ability users, pure Pokemon ability users, fruit transformed Pokemon ability users. These are not suitable experimental subjects. Quinn plans to find an ordinary ability user to try the effect of the rumble ball he made. But for a while, he really couldn't find such a person. The common ones were artificial fruits. Most of the carders had the ability of Pokemon, and the few pure fruit ability users were not there. The world has changed. Why is it so hard to find ordinary ones? After searching for a long time, Quinn finally bumped into Kaido. Quinn, what are you doing wandering around? Brother Kaido? I just want to find someone to try the medicine. I cracked the thing sent back from Sky Island before, and I want to experiment with the effect, but I can't find a suitable person for a while. Pure ability user? Let me see. Brother Kaido, do you mean you want to do it yourself? What's wrong? Am I not a pure ability user? Anyway, even if you make some poison, it can't kill me, so it's okay to try it for you. But, I think. Stop talking nonsense, give it to me. Looking at the black and blue balls made by Quinn, Kaido threw it into his mouth, wanting to try how magical the so-called form transformation is. How is it, Brother Kaido? How do you feel? Kaido insisted on making this attempt, so Quinn naturally couldn't stop him. He could only ask how he felt afterwards, but before asking, he silently took a few steps back, feeling a little angry. How should I put it? There is no change in my body, and there is no breakthrough in the transformation of my form, but now I really want to fight. Chapter 945. Miss Drake, can you please explain your eyes? Brother Kaido, science is a rigorous issue. Please think about it carefully. Are you really not saying this on purpose, just because you want to fight? Listening to Kaido's words, Quinn's eyes almost popped out. His reverse push of the blue ball really failed. He would not be too upset. After all, this was only the first finished product. Many things were still being explored, and failure was nothing. But if failure became a stimulant and Kaido took it, it would not be a fun thing. With Kaido's personality, he is likely to play such a trick. No, I do feel angry now. Brother Kaido, you are exposed. If you are really angry, you will never be able to hold it back now. Quinn seemed to see through everything, and did not believe Kaido's words at all. If you, Brother Kaido, really got angry, because of external factors, you should have started fighting now. Boom. Gurgle. After swallowing his saliva, Quinn looked at the mace that hit his feet, and suddenly remembered something. Whether Kaido was really angry, or pretending to be angry, he seemed to be unable to avoid it. Your cleverness is used in the wrong place, Quinn. If I really want to hit you, do I need to find a reason? Kaido's words blocked all possibilities. He was right. As a person who believes that force is everything, Kaido does not need a reason to do things. He does it because he wants to do it. This is the basis of his actions. But your thing really has no changes in form. Instead, it makes people more angry. Your research seems to have failed. In this case, I will go back and continue my research. It shouldn't be difficult. From acting on the body to acting on the spirit, he must have made a mistake in some way. He just needs to rearrange the experiment. And he doesn't want to be destroyed by Kaido, but when he was about to leave, the 8 fasts had blocked his way. It's already like this. You want to leave directly? Waylay gossip. It was you, Brother Kaido, who insisted on trying it. This is why Quinn didn't want Kaido to try. He was not afraid of poisoning Kaido to death. Anyway, that physique would definitely not be poisoned. He was just afraid that Kaido would get angry, but some things, after all, could not be avoided. Even Kaido developed new moves because of this. In a sense, he is also a great hero. On the beach of Beiwu, due to the aftermath of Onigashima, the inland sea of Wano country is no longer calm. The surging waves made the few fishermen return to the shore. Lord Mingwang has started again. After all, it is Lord Mingwang. It is the power of Lord Mingwang that has brought us to this day. These people have slightly younger faces. On the night of the coup in Wano country, most of them didn't know anything. Growing up in such an environment, they have no resistance to the beasts. Instead, they believe that everything today is brought by the beasts, and they should rule here. Along the inner river, there are ordinary residents along the shore. Occasionally, you can see a few Pokemon following them. There are also unlucky people who get injured accidentally and are taken to the Pokemon Center for treatment. Nowadays, there is even a specialty department for electric shock injuries of the sheep. There are always people who don't believe in it and touch the sheep with their bare hands, causing themselves to be electrocuted. Even some old people will team up to tease newcomers and trick them into pulling wool with their bare hands. Nowadays, if you haven't been electrocuted by the sheep, you are embarrassed to say that you work there. Continue forward along the inner river and you will reach the Flower City. In the palace, Drake is looking at the newspaper that has just been delivered. Wow, Brother Jin really did something incredible. Flame Disaster Jin, Kaido's right-hand man, Vice Admiral Stolberry was killed. The Navy mourned for him. The Navy lost face. A more dangerous era is coming. Morgans is so brave. He dares to write such things. He picked up a bottle of rum and drank it all. Even Drake admired Morgans' courage. He really dared to be a headline party and dared to write anything. Although Jin had not returned yet, the news of the battle had already been transmitted back to Wano country, but there was not much news about Blackbeard and Ace. The world government was still preparing something for this, and did not announce it immediately. Looking at the big events one after another in the newspaper, Drake was also a little surprised. It seemed that a lot of things happened on the sea during the time after she returned. At this time, there was a knock on the door, and Kikunojo walked in with a flower healing ring floating on his head. "Ms. Drake, I've told you to drink less recently. The doctor said that the flower therapy ring petal water can promote wound healing. Your eyes are still. Looking at Drake, Kikunojo suddenly found something wrong. "Ms. Drake, if I remember correctly, your right eye is injured, right? Can you please tell me why your eye patch is on your left eye?" Since returning to Wano country, Drake has used the injury as an excuse to occupy a lot of Kikunojo's time. He himself believed that Drake's eye problems were all caused by him, so he basically obeyed Drake's requests. But now, he found that he seemed to have misunderstood something. Her right eye looked intact. Touching his eye patch, Drake found the problem. Her eyes were healed not long after returning to Wano country. Except for the pain for a few days, nothing else was affected, but this did not prevent her from taking advantage of the injury to plan her own private affairs. For example, she wore an eye patch to pretend that she really had a problem, but when she was reading the newspaper before, Kikunojo was not there, so she took it off because she felt that the eye patch was in the way and uncomfortable. The content of the news shocked her again, so when Kikunojo came in, she grabbed the eye patch and put it on the wrong way, even though she had no scars. "Well, actually this eye is just a prosthetic eye made by Brother Quinn, and my eyes can see through, so wearing an eye patch does not affect my vision." "I see. Do I look like a fool? What kind of prosthetic eye can be so flexible? You also know our technology." "Okay, it was actually cured a few days ago, and now it is no different from the original." "That's great. If your eyes are fine, that's better than anything else." Kikunojo didn't care about Derek's pretending to be sick. Compared to this, her body was really fine, which made Kikunojo happy. "You are surprisingly naive. But it doesn't matter. I've been holding it in for a few days. I'm going to have a party. Do you want to join me?" "Miss Drake, can't you save some money?" "No, people may die at any time. Instead of saving money, it's better to enjoy it." Chapter 946. Odin must come to knock on it, if he is alive. Moria's hidden switch. Drake had figured out Kikunojo's personality. He was kind-hearted and too kind. He was thinking about others most of the time. As long as the Odin poison could be eliminated, there would be no big problem. But his reaction, after he found out that he was pretending to be blind, was so bland that Drake felt a little guilty and thought it was not good. However, this guilt was short-lived and was soon forgotten by Drake. He dragged Kikunojo to the party. "Miss Drake, you are not doing a good job in life. There are not so many things. Although I really want to see the ideal world of Lord Arceus and Miss Yamato, no one can guarantee that we can really reach that day. If I really die on the way, I don't want to leave any regrets, but if I die, those people should not forget me. After all, if that happens, no one will pay them back." Let's go to the party. Drake dragged Kikunojo out, which was also part of his attitude change. The previous Drake could not do this. And all this was seen by Denjiro in the palace. Although he has always supported Kikunosuke in selling his body, he feels that it seems to have gone too far in this period of time. Especially after that time, Kikunosuke's attitude has changed greatly. Not long after Kikunosuke left, Korematsu also returned here. Is there anything wrong with me? White-haired Korematsu, did you go to play with them again? Kikunosuke's daily life is to be harassed by Drake, while Korematsu's daily life is to exchange some Kappa experience with Racket and Kappa. Sometimes Miyawana and Wolf are also very interested in him as a Kappa, and they become familiar with each other. After Kazuki Hiyori grew up, and his state of mind changed greatly, he was not as dependent on them as before, which made Korematsu want to find some sense of existence, so when he was not assigned a task, he would play the role of a playmate. Yes, the way they look at me is normal. Today, there are a large number of fishmen and fur tribes in the 100 Beasts, so they do not have the special eyes of the native residents of Wano country for aliens like Korematsu. Especially since the top leaders of the beasts include the fishmen and the furmen, they are more accepting of these two races than the native residents of Wano country. Korematsu feels relaxed there. Korematsu, you have fallen too? Fallen? Don't forget the past, although I don't want to admit it, but Denjiro, you were very smart before. You should understand what the current situation of Wano country is. If Lord Otten is still alive, he would probably smile and give Wano country to Kaido, and then take us out to sea. Korematsu is right. Denjiro knows what the current situation of Wano country is. Except for the fact that the country has not been completely opened. Everything is countless times stronger than 18 years ago. The current generation of young people in Wano country, whoever asks them to return to their past lives, they will probably fight to the death. There were some D-heads originally, but those people actually came up with an action to assassinate Kazuki Hiyori. This behavior is something Denjiro cannot understand, and this behavior eventually led to Kazuki Hiyori's blackening. It's difficult. Yes, if we really want to blame someone, Orochi is the culprit. Drake, who ended his career of pretending to be sick, started his banquet again. Jin was still on his way back, and the world government was still discussing the problem. In the Triangle of Terror, Luffy and his crew also encountered the strongest enemy so far. They were trapped in Sky Island, and delayed for a long time. After leaving, they participated in an adventure event held by pirates, and obtained a treasure. When they arrived at the Seven Waters, they happened to run into Frankie, who was planning to build a ship to find Tom. Building a dream ship has always been Frankie's dream, but he has no money, which makes him unable to buy good materials. At this time, he met the Straw Hat Pirates who had money, but could not repair the Merry. After being moved by their feelings for the ship, they cooperated to build the current Sunny. His goal is to find Tom. As for the other members of Frankie's family, with the help of the business card given by Tom, they started their new jobs in a dismantling factory under the beast fruit. Because their shadows were taken away, they had to fight Moria. Due to the appearance of Von Clay, they even successfully completed the Pirate No. 6 combination Giant Emperor, but it was useless. They saw the power of the world in the East China Sea. After being wiped out by Batman, the Straw Hat Pirates began to think about life. They also developed new moves, but they were a little unskilled. Although they had the advantage in numbers, they did not achieve much results against Moria. A lean camel is bigger than a horse. Moria was also a ruthless person back then, but it was a pity that he met a more ruthless one. Years of fat house life ruined his physical skills, and his closed heart lost his original domineering. Moria was gradually at a disadvantage, but because of Luffy's words, he fell into a furious posture. Defeat Kaido? How dare you? How dare you say such a thing? What right do you have to do such a thing? You weak people, why do you have such courage? Moria walked out of the zombies made of Oz, holding a large pair of scissors, and he entered a state of near madness, because of a name. The word Kaido is almost his lifelong nightmare. His partner, his dream, everything he has, was destroyed in that battle. After that, he hid in the fog, and began to plan his zombie army. Seeing this group of weaklings swearing to defeat the monster, Moria felt that his heart was hit hard. This was simply telling him in person that he was a waste. 80 million berries. A pirate with only 80 million berries. Why do you think you can challenge Kaido? Luffy's record is far from being as brilliant as in the past. It is very rare to be able to mention this price. Although he is strong now, he is not a supernova at all. By the way, the bounty of Hero is 10,000 berries. Since the appearance of Arceus, a special existence, the Navy began to increase the bounty for some non-human creatures, and Hero also avoided the fate of being less valuable than a newspaper. The word Kaido seemed to turn on the hidden switch in Moria's body, causing him to burst out with far more combat power than usual. What happened to this guy? Luffy didn't understand what caused Moria's strength to change so drastically. I remember now. I heard that he once challenged Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, but because of his failure, all his companions were killed. Lala seemed to remember some information, and answered the doubts of everyone present, but it had no practical significance. Chapter 947, The Power of Connections. Today, the Big Mob Pirates and the Beasts Pirates have a closer relationship. When Charlotte Lin is free on weekdays, she also mentioned the past to her children. Also known as the Emperor of the Sea, there are some topics that cannot be avoided, so Lala occasionally heard Charlotte Lin talk about those things. The 7 warlords of the sea are also well-known pirates on the sea. Even if some of them are decadent now, they have had their own glory. At that time, Charlotte Lin talked about some of the 7 warlords of the sea in the past, aiming at the Navy, Hawkeye, who is called the Navy Hunter, and the Pirate Empress who became famous in one battle. These are the names of the 7 warlords of the sea that sound better. Some people have proved their strength through defeat. For example, Moria, who lost to Kaido, although all his companions were killed, he himself is still alive. Among the pirates who invaded Kaido's base camp, this is an extremely rare case. But when it comes to this matter, Lala remembers that Charlotte Lin gnashed her teeth a little, because many pastry chefs couldn't resist the temptation of the frosty milk fairy and actually ran from her territory to Kaido. Killed all his partners? I don't know the details. Anyway, he once fought with Kaido, and because of this, he became a 7 warlords of the sea. Kaido may be his pain. Lala hid behind a pillar, and told Luffy what she knew. Is that Kaido such a violent person? His subordinates seemed quite kind. During the time on Sky Island, the Batman didn't make things difficult for them. After all, the rhinoceros beetle also has face, and the Batman thinks that these guys may be colleagues in the future. In addition to asking for work, he didn't do anything else. Kind? That's the 4 emperors of the New World, the most violent pirates in the world. How can you think that guy is kind? The current 4 emperors can be divided into 2 categories. The 3 men are okay with the people in the territory, but to the outside world, whether it is whitebeard or red hair, they all leave a dignified reputation. As for Charlotte Lin, she mainly looks at her mental state. When her mental state is abnormal, she poses a greater threat to the territory. Even her own son can't stop her. Regarding Luffy's judgment, Laura didn't even know where to blame him. Kaido? I haven't heard of this person, but I have heard of the name Charlotte Lin. It seems that she is a little girl with great destructive power. A skeleton was also thinking about this sentence, but his logic was more special. This skeleton was Brook, who was also trapped in the horror bark, because his shadow was taken away. He was a swordsman and musician of the Rumba Pirates. When the Rumba Pirates sailed to the Devil's Triangle, they encountered a huge change, and were wiped out. Only Brook survived, because of the Yomi fruit. But when his soul walked out of Yomi, and was about to return to his body, he got lost in the thick fog of the Devil's Triangle for a year. When he found his body had turned into a skeleton. Compared to the others, Brook was old enough, and had enough experience. To him, Roger was a newcomer, and Charlotte Lin had not made a big name. As for Kaido, at that time, Kaido was still a soldier of the Kingdom Army, and had never been to sea. Boom. A huge rock smashed down, interrupting this inappropriate conversation. Enough of the small talk. You don't know anything at all. You don't know anything at all. It's because you are alive that you lose. Shadow gathering place. Shadow Emperor. The shadows on the island gathered into Moria's body under Moria's call, and Moria's body continued to expand, gradually turning into an exaggerated giant. You may be strong, but in order to protect my companions, I have sworn that I will not be defeated again. This was the oath he made when he left Sky Island in order to protect his companions, but it was extremely difficult to fulfill this oath. You can say such things, which means you are still inexperienced. You who have not experienced the cruelty of the new world, don't understand the horror of this world at all. Ridiculous. This is the only thought in Moria's mind. Looking at this energetic newcomer, Moria's anger began to swell. He didn't know why, but looking at this hopeful face, he seemed to have lost something. The furious Moria launched a fierce attack on Luffy and his party. Compared with Moria in the past, Moria now has lost the sharpest claws, but the shadow fruit and the giant body still make Luffy and his party miserable. Although they are still getting stronger, they lack the death battle compared to the original timeline. Zoro and Sanji fought with crocodiles, Cardas and Alabasta, but Luffy did not. Batman replaced Enelu, which also made Luffy know what it is to be difficult, but he lost the life and death struggle with CP9. Even if he also developed the second and third gears, he was still a little worse than the original timeline. Moria's hidden switch was triggered by the word Kaido, and he burst out with even higher fighting power in rage. His physical strength was constantly consumed, and in the collisions again and again, Luffy gradually approached his limit. It seems that your oath is about to be broken. Moria's condition was not very good. If he were more than 20 years ago, he would never lose to these people in front of him, but now, maintaining this Shadow Emperor is already a great consumption for him, and his willpower is always being tortured. Luffy is fine, but their companions have a hard time resisting Moria's indiscriminate attacks in anger. Experience the pain of loss. Seizing the opportunity, when Moria was about to attack other members of the Straw Hat Pirates, something strange happened, and the entire island was suddenly covered by an unknown attack. Looking from above, a bear paw-shaped mark suddenly appeared on the island. Whether it was Moria, Luffy, or the people next to them, they all lost consciousness in this attack. At the moment, when Moria lost consciousness, countless shadows began to return to their bodies, and his body shape also began to return to normal. Then he was taken to another place in a nearly teleporting posture. Bartholomew Big Bear. What do you mean? Moria woke up very quickly, and after waking up, he did not feel hurt at all. Looking at the people in front of him, he also understood what happened just now. You can't win. Even if you kill those people, you will still lose. It's meaningless. Your body can't withstand his next attack. A huge red bubble bear paw floated in the sky. It was a pain that Moria had endured. After the bear divided a part of it and sent it back into Moria's body, he understood the meaning of the bear's words. What on earth do you want to do here? Chapter 948 Moria's Request. Mysterious Shadow. The Straw Hat Pirates in the original timeline attracted great attention from the world government because they defeated Crocodile first, invaded Judicial Island, and survived the Demon Slayer Order. From the moment he entered Moria's territory, Kuma had his own mission. If Moria was defeated, everyone would be wiped out together. The 7 warlords of the sea could not be defeated by the same person continuously. In that case, the status of the 7 warlords of the sea and the face of the world government would be gone. But now it is different. The Straw Hat Pirates are just an ordinary pirate group. They would not attract too much attention from the world government. Kuma did not come here to wipe out Moria, but to convey some special orders on behalf of the world government. After the arrest of Fire Fist Ace, they finally made the decision to execute him. The reason given to the outside world was that Roger's sinful bloodline needed to be ended, but in fact, their real purpose was to question the new world pattern. Red Hair secretly contacted Whitebird and Kaido, and I don't know what they are doing. In the face of the ever-expanding new world, they need to curb this trend. With Ace as a target, ending Whitebird and improving the reputation of the Navy, this is their plan. To this end, the Navy is secretly drawing troops from all over the world and summoning the 7 warlords of the sea. But not all the 7 warlords of the sea are obedient. Due to his own special characteristics, Kuma obeys the orders of the world government. His order is to convey this order to Moria and take him over. What does my fight have to do with you? What does killing them have to do with you? Whether I come or not, I will eventually lose to the Straw Hat Boy. The ending is the same. It's different. That naive boy, how can that naive guy still have his own partners? The pain of loss is what he should experience. Moria didn't finish his words, and Huma's palm was already placed in front of his forehead. The meaning is self-evident. I'm here to tell you the world government's order about their future battle plan. Is the target Whitebird? As for the outside world, let the news of your defeat spread. If I don't come, things will continue in this direction, and you'd better keep your mouth shut about what I do. Bear, you guy. I don't have much time left. You should have heard something. The decision is up to you, but you have to understand that you are not my opponent. Bear's tone did not fluctuate at all, like a ruthless robot. According to Bear's agreement, there is not much time left for him to be transformed into a pacifist without consciousness. That is equivalent to a special death for him. He doesn't mind doing something in this last time. Who made Luffy the son of dragon? If it weren't for this, Bear would not interfere with these people at all. He would stop Moria from hurting Luffy's companions because of this. There is a record pointer on the ship. You can go where you should go. I still have to deal with some things related to the Straw Hat. Wait. I promise you, but there are still my partners on the ship. I don't know what happened to Hogback, but Absalom must be alive. Bring them out, and I will agree to your request. Otherwise, don't forget that I'm also a 7 Warlords of the Sea. Okay, I agree to your request. Deal. I won't tell you anything you do. It is normal for the 7 Warlords of the Sea to have their own ulterior motives. Moria is not interested in what Kuma is going to do. As long as he can do what he asks, he doesn't care about other things. After calming down, he also knew that Kuma was right. That blow was his last blow. After that, he is likely to fail. After Kuma left, Moria stared at his hands blankly. His former partners reappeared in his memories like a revolving lantern, and Luffy's innocent smile kept reappearing in his mind. Protect your partners. Ha, Straw Hat Boy, you will know the pain of the new world. After leaving here, Kuma conducted his own assessment of the Straw Hat Pirates. He thought that, although these people were strange, they were all qualified partners, so he left here with peace of mind. In a sense, Kuma, Okada, helped Luffy like his own father. And Luffy and his friends ended the battle inexplicably. Except for Hiro and Zoro, no one knew what happened on the island, but they did not tell anyone about it. Speaking of which, what happened? Why did everyone suddenly faint? I don't know. I vaguely seemed to see a black shadow. Nami and Usopp were discussing what happened in the end, while Luffy was staring at the life card in his hand at the bow. When leaving the Terror Triangle, Lala gave him a new life card and stated that the life card was a card that could feed back the owner's vitality. If the card began to burn, it meant that the owner was in a bad condition. But now he still didn't know what caused this. Hehe. I'm fine. I believe Ace. He should be fine. Okay, let's not think about it for now. Ace doesn't want me to worry about him because of this kind of thing. Putting his thoughts back on the ship, Luffy looked at his new partner Brook, who was also analyzing the so-called mysterious black shadow. Yohoho, it's really an interesting guess, but speaking of it, I have also seen a strange black shadow in the past 2 years. It may be the messenger from the underworld. The messenger of the underworld? Yeah, I was scared at the time. The black shadow suddenly appeared beside me and asked me where the underworld was, but unfortunately, I didn't know where that thing was. He didn't believe it at the time, and I had a nightmare before leaving. Brook has a great talent for telling ghost stories. At least he scared Nami and Chopper enough. Will Huang really have a messenger? I don't know, but it's definitely not that guy. Brook, the black shadow you mentioned, is it a guy with white hair and only one eye showing? That's right, and he has no legs. Have you seen him? I've seen him before. That guy seems to have been looking for Huang. He even asked me for directions at that time. I guess he got lost. If I knew where that place is, I really want to go and take a look. The terrifying atmosphere created by Brook disappeared instantly. A person who asked Zoro for directions. Chopper and Nami looked at each other. If nothing unexpected happens, they will probably never meet this kind of person in this life. The Straw Hat Pirates continued their voyage. Kuma and Moria had left here and were heading towards Mirajoa. On the Nine Snake Island, Boa Hancock had just rejected the call on the phone. Chapter 949. Phantom Disaster removed her invisibility curtain. Boa Hancock. Do you know what you are talking about? Of course I know, but I'm not interested in your affairs. Whether it is Whitebird or anyone else, I don't want to get involved. You'd better think it over. My lunch break is up. I will consider it when I feel better. Hancock hung up the phone without paying any attention to the people on the world government side. Hancock. You. Okay, mother-in-law, I don't want to talk about this topic. Since I'm so beautiful, you can study this kind of thing yourself, okay? Okay, in addition to petrification, the ability of the sweet fruit with the characteristic of beauty is also very powerful. Even Gireliosa could not avoid the influence of this ability. When she reacted, Hancock had already run away. Alas, Gireliosa was also helpless. Hancock was strong enough to protect the safety of the 9 snakes, but her personality made people wonder what to do. She used this method because she was in a good mood. If she was in a bad mood, she might just kick it directly. But even though she complained, she really had to think about what to do next. The world government was not ready yet, so it did not publish specific information in the newspaper. Even the first time they summoned the 7 warlords of the sea, they knew very well that it was impossible to recruit all these people with ulterior motives at once. This test was to see what their attitude was, so as to arrange the next step. Even in the phone call just now, the world government did not make it clear what they were going to do, but just asked Hancock to obey the orders and prepare for the next action. Among the 7 warlords of the sea now, only Kuma knew the most detailed actions. Because of his special nature, Kuma now had a level of trust that other 7 warlords of the sea did not have. Hancock was not interested in what the world government wanted to do. She had no good impression of the world government itself. Compared with the so-called summons of the world government, she was more concerned about the things in front of her. Sister Alga, long time no see, come and try the specialties of the 9 snakes. These are all sea beasts caught in the calm belt. There are no fruits at all. If the person who called before saw Hancock's reaction at this time, he would definitely be shocked. There was no coldness in Hancock's tone, only endless tenderness. She was in a hurry to hang up the phone because Olga came to Jiash for vacation again. She was patient enough to say a few words before hanging up the phone because she was in a good mood. In fact, it's okay to have some fruit occasionally. I think grilled pineapple is quite delicious recently. The problem of nausea when seeing fruit at the beginning has almost been cured now, but Olga is still used to processing it before eating it directly, and grilled pineapple is an example. Although grilling fruit sounds outrageous, the taste of grilled pineapple is still good. High temperature will destroy its structure, so that the pineapple will not prick the mouth, and at the same time it can further stimulate its sweetness. Didn't you hear it? What are you still standing there for? Go and prepare the grilled pineapple. Please wait for Sister Olga, it will be ready soon. Very quickly. Hancock demonstrated what Sichuan opera face changing is, and instructed the cook outside the door. In fact, she wanted to cook by herself, but she had proved in her past experiments that she did not have that talent. The food she made was not poisonous, but it was a little hard to swallow. In order not to embarrass this person, she gave up the idea. I just said it casually. What's the matter with the call from the world government just now? They seem to be planning a war and want to recruit the 7 warlords to participate in the war. War? It's over. Captain Kaido has to get excited again. Leaning on the cushion behind her, Olga seemed to think of her busy future. I haven't accepted the call yet. Do I need to reply to them and get intelligence? They didn't say the target is the beasts. Don't worry, it would be abnormal. Just wait and see. They can't tell you after the fight starts. It doesn't matter who they are targeting. Captain Kaido is a warmonger. No matter who the war is against, if the scale is large enough, he will definitely join in the fun. I just don't know how many people he will bring this time. Anyway, Uncle Quinn will definitely be in trouble. Kaido has done this before. For example, when he was wandering around and saw pirates fighting, ordinary people would stay away from them to avoid trouble, and some would sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight, hoping to reap the benefits. But Kaido is different. As long as these people are of decent strength, he will directly attack indiscriminately, turning the battle into a melee to satisfy his own preferences. There are only a few people who are worth the world government going to war with, and Kaido will never miss such an opportunity. By the way, give me your autumn. I almost forgot to update the system for you. Update the system? Although puzzled, Hancock still handed over the Rotom phone. Hers was just an ordinary foreign trade version, lacking some of the internal software of the beast. The Rotom of internal staff is different from that of the outside world. Some special software can only be updated on Onigashima, or transmitted through the upgraded Rotom. Alga helped Hancock update the internal version of Fat Korea. Okay, that's no problem. From now on, whatever you buy will be delivered within 1 day, and we can also help you send newspapers and intelligence in, so it will be much more convenient for you to collect information from the outside world. The news bird will not enter the doldrums, so the news update of the 9 snakes has a certain delay. Recently, Tesoro is also cooperating with Morgans and plans to create an electronic daily newspaper, which will be more convenient in the future. See if there is anything else you need, I will help you deal with it. It was a rare trip, and Alga wanted to finish everything at once, but she waited for a long time, but did not get a reply. When she looked up again, she saw a pair of eyes with red hearts. I said, "Did you misunderstand me? Don't think about those messy things." A hand knife brought Hancock back to his senses, and Alga brought the topic back on track, such as recording the geographical location of the 9 snakes so as to give Dragonite the permanent pointer of the 9 snakes. On the other side, after a period of flight, Jin returned to Wano country again, but his mood was a little complicated. Cheers to brother Jin. Cheers. Although he didn't kill the other party, Jin also made Blackbird experience several times of burning in the fire, and that eye was also scrapped. If Blackbird's eyes can be restored, Jin will go to discuss with Marco, who is a real phoenix. As for why he was in a complicated mood, it was because Drake and others were holding a banquet around his new bounty order, seemingly celebrating his bounty breakthrough. There was nothing wrong with this, but when he saw Drake toasting his bounty order after drinking too much, he couldn't help it. Chapter 950, Weird Painting Style, The Gathering of the 7 Warlords. Francis Drake. What are you doing? Why is there another bonfire? Are there new people? Don't you understand the rule of not bringing guests? You pay for that table yourself. When a person starts to call his subordinates by their full names in an informal setting, it means that his attitude has changed to a certain extent. Looking at the bounty placed on the empty seat, Jin's fists were already clenched. With the development of the times, the effectiveness of bounties is not as good as before. Bounties issued to curb illegal activities have become the capital of pirates to show off. It is not uncommon to enlarge bounties and hang idle bounties on the wall. Some people have made wax figures of some well-known pirates for collection. Looking at the photo on the bounty, Jin had to admire the photographer because the background flame on his new bounty was blue. That was the first time he used the blue flame mode outside. Judging from the action, it should be when he poked Blackbird's eye socket and was caught by someone. For this, he had to admire the Navy's shipboard photographers. The level of these photographers is probably not much worse than those senior CP agents. But the fact that the bounty order looks good doesn't mean he can get used to others putting him on the table, which makes Jin feel very conspicuous. If he has to comfort himself, he can only be thankful that Drake didn't pour the wine on the ground, otherwise it would be even more outrageous. Faced with the sudden questioning, Drake didn't grasp the point. It was nighttime, and she was holding her own party as usual. Jin's habit of wearing black clothes allows him to blend into the background well, and there is always a fire burning behind his head. When he drinks too much, it is easy to cause misunderstandings. Drake cares more about who called the person. She likes to treat people and spend money as a personal hobby and lifestyle, but this does not mean that she likes to be a sucker. Her generosity is only for those she invites. The pirate group of the Sea Emperor is a scale of 10,000 people. Even the main team stationed in Wano country has thousands of people. No one can guarantee that they can get along with thousands of people. There will always be some people who are not pleasing to the eye, even if she is a Kada. Ms. Drake, that's not a bonfire, it's Jin. Mr. Jin. Kikunojo, who was pulled over, froze for a moment, and finally picked out a fairly appropriate word. Jin? Impossible. Brother Jin might come back at any time. How could it be so soon? What are you all standing there for? Keep drinking. The surroundings became silent, and Jin's appearance made them feel uneasy. They were not Drake, and they dared to be so presumptuous in front of Jin, although this was due to Drake's drinking. But if it were them, even if they were drunk, Jin would probably hit them with their fists. How much did she drink? One day, a new quantifier appeared here. Because the banquet lasted too long, it was turned from an ordinary banquet in the daytime into a bonfire party at night. In the end, only time could be used to estimate how much she drank. With a sigh, Jin gave Drake a hit on the head with a finger snap, which was considered a special physical sobering method. Alcohol can make people drunk because it contains ethanol, which can make the human body enter a state of excitement. But at Drake's level, his body is already different from that of ordinary people. Just like Kaido, if he doesn't want to get drunk, he won't get drunk, even if he drinks for a whole day. But in order to experience the feeling of being drunk, they will control their bodies not to resist. As long as there is a special situation, their body functions will skip the control of thinking and sober up directly. External force attack is the best special situation. But no one can be generalized. Even if Jin only used a finger snap, he still flipped Drake over. Are you awake now? It hurts, Jin. What are you doing? I'm celebrating for you. This is 2 billion. How many pirates on the sea have a bounty of more than 2 billion? Why don't you burn incense for me? Drake glanced at the now dim banquet venue. Under the light of the fire, the photo in front of Jin seemed a little unlucky. Oh, don't mind it, brother Jin. You can put my photo up next time. I don't mind at all. Let's have a drink. Jin is not unable to eat in front of outsiders. His mask has an opening. As long as his head is transformed into a pterosaur, he can eat through the extended mouth. However, Jin is not interested in this at the moment. I encountered a little accident this time and let that guy run away. When I meet him again, I will bring his head back. That guy escaped from brother Jin. There are too many people in the Navy. That guy's vitality is abnormally tenacious. Too tenacious to be human, but he won't have this opportunity next time. I collected some interest for you. His eye must be scrapped. I don't believe that in that case, there is no one else who can cure his eye. In a sense, Jin also set up his own flag, but for those who are strong enough, accidents cannot exist forever, unless the person on the other side is called Buggy. Jin was not wrong. At this time, Blackbird, like Drake before, had put on an eye patch. Unlike Drake's deception, there is a hole under Blackbird's right eye. In order to prevent infection in other areas, Poison Q has removed Blackbird's right eye. After returning with the Navy, the group stayed in Mary G's temporarily. The reason given to the outside world was to respond to the arrangement of the world government, but in fact, Blackbird was secretly planning the next plan. Captain Teach, your body is really an alien. It recovered so quickly. Thief, hahaha. As long as you are not dead, there are still infinite possibilities, and the dream can continue. It's a pity that Vanoka died, so we have to recruit one more person. Laugh it, you are sure, right? Of course, I still have no problem in this regard. Blackbird did not give up, because of the loss of an eye. Instead, he thought it was a blessing from God. Even after losing a crew member, he made more detailed arrangements for the future. In the meeting room of the world government, the world government's general staff was also discussing topics related to the 7 warlords of the sea. Blackbird is in Mirajoa. He has just joined the Shichibuke and is very cooperative. Bartholomew Kuma has already taken Gecko Moria to his positions. Hawkeye agreed to join the war, but there has been no movement yet. The Pirate Queen and Sea Knight Jinb have refused. Doflamingo's attitude is ambiguous, and less than half of the Shichibuke are in place now. There are also people in the Navy who oppose this war. We are the world government. The Navy's job is not to give opinions, but to execute orders. Sengoku is a little confused about his position. Perhaps after this war, it's time to get a new marshal. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.